rushing, and that's a touchdown for Ben Sims.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
As Levy checks in as the tailback next to Jurkovec, third down, and it is Jurkovec on the run. Welcome back, Phil Jurkovec.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Milton comes out to the near side. Ward's going to take the direct snap. Ward gets to the outside and gets in. What do we have here in Tallahassee?
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
They brought in Doyle at fullback. They line up out of the eye. Play fake, Bohannon. Touchdown. Boyle, a receiving touchdown now. What doesn't he do?
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Welcome in, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Smokey took today off to watch the Masters, play golf. I don't feel the need to cover for him, Craig. I'm just going to say it. Might as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's that time of year where days off are, part of the deal sometimes. And looking up, and there's Tiger on our screen, so I'm sure that's what he's watching as well right now.
Absolutely. So he's not here, but Craig and I are here. We're going to continue our spring football tour today. We'll hear from reporters from Boston College and Arizona, two schools kind of on different tracks. Craig, Boston College is a school that, with Phil Jurkovec, their quarterback coming back, looks to maybe be on the upswing in the ACC. Arizona is in the middle of a total rebuild. So I'm kind of curious how a second spring there is going, and that'll be at 3:30 for Boston College, at 4:45 for Arizona. Art Strickland will check in with us live from Augusta later in the show again, and Grayson Grunhay for Sikkim365.com. And Craig, we've got some news from locally. Will Nixon from the transfer portal from Midway High School, Nebraska, going to Washington. You and I will talk about that in a second, but I just want to kick off the show today by saying, we are, and I've been curious to hear your kind of opinion on this, Craig, because you have maybe a better handle on this as an outside observer than most people, I think, on, we're a couple days out of Bob Bowlsby's announcement for the Big 12. And I'm kind of curious what you think about what the Big 12 should specifically be looking for. And do you have traits that stand out to you that you look at other conference commissioners that you think do a good job and that the Big 12 has been lacking with Bob Bowlsby? And, of course, Dan Beebe had none of those. But with Bob Bowlsby specifically, where they can improve it with his retirement?
I'd love to be able to say I've broken down other college commissioners, but, I've probably talked more about college commissioners in the last couple of weeks than in my whole career, quite frankly. So, it's not something that, as much as we cover college athletics, I don't necessarily often find myself in the weeds of some of the political backdoor type of stuff. And this is not that exactly. I mean, it will eventually be to some extent. There are going to be politics involved, but no, man, I mean, there's nothing like I wish he had this from Greg Sankey and this from Kevin Warren or from even older commissioners. I just think they need somebody with some confidence, obviously, but not only in themselves, but in the brand that they're representing. They need somebody who believes in the Big 12, not somebody who's just saying that they believe in the Big 12 because the check is right or because the timing is right or because I think of when they need to avoid a Steve Patterson situation where it might be a guy who's a great candidate on paper but really has no soul to what the objective is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
He was just kind of there for a paycheck and to spend money and to be the center of attention. And I don't want to see the commissioner all the time. I don't want him to become a guy that we regularly see. I think he should speak when necessary and not too much outside of that, and kind of let the rest of it be handled by the schools themselves, but interject himself when need be. But no, we don't need to be talking about whoever this new guy is a lot.
I agree with you there. I don't want another. We already have a Greg Sankey.
Yeah.
We already had a Jim Delaney, and Kevin Warren is not Jim Delaney. I mean, he's different, but he kind of gets to take over and ride the wave of a conference that has just a lot of clout and power. Whereas whoever takes over for Bob Bowlsby is taking over a conference that, even before Bob Bowlsby, since day one, has been tumultuous. Yeah. The foundations of the very league are built on me, and not us, which is why the SEC works, because they know that while they can work out their little me stuff on their own, the power of the many outweighs the power of the one.
Well, the power of the money also outweighs it. What are they going to say? We need more money? Really? Okay, go find that somewhere else. I mean, the schools in the SEC don't have a lot of bargaining power. Texas and Oklahoma did, because they all could argue that they should be making more money. And the Big 12 can't do anything about that. They can't just create it out of thin air, and certainly not to the extent that the SEC can. So, I mean, they had a valid reason, but what is somebody in the SEC going to say? Like, we're not getting enough? I mean, that's not an argument, obviously. We're not getting respect. Okay, go find it somewhere else then. Go walk out on this money, and nobody's going to do that. So, totally different bargaining positions for those two conferences. And like we hear from the other commissioners, and I don't not want to hear from whoever the new guy is. I just don't want him to become like somebody we're talking about constantly. Yeah. That's what I'm getting at. He doesn't need to become a focal point of the conference necessarily. I think the better work can be done behind the scenes for the most part. And then when you are doing an interview or you need to talk about certain things, like, I want to hear from you, but I just, leave it to the commissioners to kind of, continue to sort of run most things. But, confidence obviously goes without saying. I said it earlier, but, you can say that you want that, and that's an obvious trait in somebody. And then you pick somebody, and they might be confident to some extent, but then they get in a room with a lot of other ultra-confident people, and their voice gets drowned out. And they need somebody whose voice is going to carry, no matter who they're talking to, whether it's president from Iowa State or whether it's Greg Sankey. They need to be able to be slam their fist on the table when it comes to the Big 12 and what's best for the Big 12, and be able to not only be able to put that out there, but be able to back it up and be able to stand his or her ground. I want somebody who's going to fight for the conference. Basically, that's what it's going to whittle down to. Somebody who's got the right interest in mind, which is what goes back to I don't want to see you all over the place because it's about you. And somebody who's going to fight, and somebody who knows, the history of this conference, and knows what this region's about and what these schools' histories are about, and understand that, for Baylor and TCU and Oklahoma State and Texas Tech and basically all these schools that are left over, they have been treated like the adopted kids or this redheaded stepchild, or, whatever phrase you want to use. They haven't always... It was kind of like felt disrespected, or, like they didn't belong, because the top two schools in the conference are always telling them, like, you're only here because of us, and so I think they need to embrace what those schools have been through, and also embrace that they are willing to work together and ready to stick it out and ready to prove themselves. So I know I'm rambling there, but those are some of the things I'm looking for, basically. Yeah. Somebody who's going to fight for them, somebody who knows the landscape, and somebody who's not going to back down, and somebody who has the conference's actual best interest in mind. That's who I want. Yeah.
What I think one of Bob Bowlsby's strong suits was that we really found out when it came down to the new 12-team playoff proposal is that, and he didn't get credit for this as much, and it's because, look, his job is to advocate for the Big 12. I mean, that's what his job is. His number one thing is to advocate for the Big 12, but also not to do that at the expense of the greater good of college football, because he had the greater good of college football and college athletics at the heart of everything he was doing, but particularly college football, since that drives everything. And he's a man who believes that college football is better when it's inclusive and not when it's some kind of, Dubai resort that only billionaires can go to, which is what certain parties want it to be.
Well, we've seen soccer try to pull it off. We've seen golf try and go that direction, right? With old Phil Mickelson trying to do their whole Super League thing. And, when the expansion first started, there were those rumblings, what's this whole alliance thing about? And it turns out it's about a whole lot of nothing, really. It's about
lobbying.
It's about voting and lobbying and boring political stuff that I know it matters. It's just, I just hate politics, and so that's not really of interest to me, although I know it does have some, power to it. It's just not what it was marketed as.
But if you were a mind, and that's the other thing about the greater good of college football, is I want a commissioner who is going to be morally conflicted if he walks up on stage knowing that what he's about to say is not going to make the fans happy. Right. It's not going to be good for them. When last year the three commissioners, Jim Phillips, George Kliavkoff, and Kevin Warren, and I think Kevin Warren knew this more than anyone else, and the other two might have suspected it, that the Big Ten never had any intention of scheduling the ACC and Pac-12 teams.
Yep.
It was not that, but when they got up and said, hey, we've got this alliance together, and it's going to be about scheduling and all this, it was basically to maybe slow the Big 12's roll when it came to maybe calling some teams that might be on the fringe of happiness where they are, especially some of those teams in the Pac-12. And it was just about making sure that they got their political agenda through. And it had nothing to do with seeing Washington play Clemson or Ohio State and USC have a 4-game home and home. It wasn't about that. That's what I'd like to see from a commissioner, someone who goes, you know what, let's not do that BS. What's the best thing for all of us together and all of college football, even if you have to give a little something up? And again, I don't understand what the SEC and Big Ten would necessarily be giving up outside of a little bit of money, which I know it's all about the money, but in the short term, in the long term, I would think they could Scrooge McDuck their way to multiple college football national titles.
The SEC and Big Ten?
Yeah, I mean, short term, I would see them going, well, the reason we're not doing this is we're going to lose money on the front end, but I think on the back end, they'll make up more than enough if you do it right.
Yeah, that was obviously a ploy just to kind of capture people's attention and make it sound like something it was not, so that it was more easily digestible. Because you start talking about the political side of voting blocks, and who really cares about? I know people care, but in general, I don't think people are all that interested on the outside of voting blocks in conference college athletics meetings, but they are, as it turns out, somewhat important. And we see that with the way the playoff stalemates and discussions are going on. But I think that all got just blown up in excitement initially of oh yeah, this is great. Look, because that announcement that solidified the Pac-12 for a while. The Big Ten didn't need solidifying, but it did sort of solidify the Pac-12, because the Pac-12 was one that was dangling out there like the Big 12, not as injured with top programs leaving, but there sure was a lot of scuttlebutt, and sure enough, they were scurrying right after that to be a part of this alliance. So it's clear there's some leaks coming through their roof a little bit that they felt they were able to patch up with that thing, and then the Big 12 was left to flounder and ultimately was able to find a life raft. But I think everybody's looking out for their best interest, and that will need to be the case for the Big 12 commissioner as well. But I do think they should have their minds on also what is the best for college football. I don't know how many people really have that in mind right now. So that would be a nice trait. I don't know how far it would take you, because it is a world where I don't think that's the case for most. I think everybody's about themselves. So that's why I worry a little bit about college football, because it kind of depends on what audience you're talking to. There's one audience that they hear idea of college football in 10 years is going to be 2 conferences playing NFL style, and some people think that's great, and they think it's great because their team's a part of it and they could care less about everybody else. And there's people on the outside going, I guess that would be kind of cool, but that's not really college football, and that's not really what we grew up with. And that's where people are coming from. It's not a jealousy or a brand envy or anything like that. It's just what is this? What are we trying to turn this thing into? And I just think people have different ideas, and a lot of it has to do with money and agendas. And I don't know what direction it's actually going, but I do know whoever's in charge of the Big 12 needs to have their eye on every little angle and be wary of teams still getting poached, despite what securities they feel that they may have. They need to be wary of that. They need to be wary of you've seen the moves that have been made behind the scenes over the last year, so they need somebody who's going to be able to sniff that type of thing out or be able to react immediately to said, backdoor meetings or negotiations or whatever the case may be. So, there's a lot. When you start to add it up, there's 5 or 6 traits you would want out of the new commissioner. They got a lot on their plate, obviously. They've got the future of the conference in a very weird, mysterious, uncertain position right now. And not only this conference, but I mean, I think a lot of people, even the ones that have money, I think they know where they're going, and the ones with the most money are driving the bus, but I don't think they really know how to get to the end point just yet.
Yeah.
I think they may have thought they did, and then turns out a few streets were closed down by Bob Bowlsby and then, by other things. So, yeah, I think everybody's navigating as best they can, and somebody just with a clear eye and a clear vision and some stones about them is going to be much needed moving forward. Because I do think people feel like you can just kind of kick around the Big 12, and I think they need to somehow try and flip that idea of them.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting when the book is written on Bob Bowlsby's history as the Big 12 commissioner, what people are going to be, because it's going to be, immediately, the things are, the early part of it wasn't really great for him, but he stepped into a situation that was tumultuous to begin with. But, the 2014 national championship, where he cost both the teams that would have been eligible for it their shot at the playoff because of his lobbying.
And why I'm so mad about that? I'm not even mad about that, I'm not anymore. But the reason, in hindsight, I'm most pissed at that still is that I wish we would have seen what the committee would have had to have done. If he would have come out and said, Baylor is our champion, Baylor won head-to-head versus TCU, Baylor should be in the college football playoff, I think the committee still would have found a way to put Ohio State in. Like, that's the funniest part of it all to me, is I still believe that Baylor wouldn't have gotten in the playoff that year. So I don't think it would have mattered, but it just didn't help when they didn't get in, and that he didn't fight for it at all. And that's what really upset a lot of people. And there's the whole little dust up with Browse in the post game, after they won that final game. And it was all just very weird. But yeah, he could have, even if he would have come out and said something, there's no guarantee that Baylor would have been in the playoff that year.
No, but it would have maybe, I think the playoff committee has been slowly exposed, and that would have accelerated that quite a bit.
That's why I wish we could have seen.
I agree with you. They would have accelerated that a bit if you'd been Baylor's the champion, or if you even said TCU's the champion. Like, we think TCU's the champion because of this. It doesn't matter.
He didn't force them to have to make a decision.
No, exactly.
He basically just left it open so that, he doesn't even fight for one of his teams, so we'll just,
You know what he was doing? He was trying to do what
politicking.
But he was trying to do what the SEC does, and was like, look, we've got a bunch of good teams.
Right.
We've got two good teams.
But
they both should be in there.
But that's a misstep on his part then, because you could have read the room and understood even back then. That's almost, 8 years ago?
Yeah.
Almost 8 years ago. So, read the room. You could have read it back then and understood that the Big 12 didn't have the type of clout that they were going to get that respect nudge from ESPN vote or playoff people. So I understand it in hindsight, but at the time it felt like the wrong move, and even now it feels like the wrong move. And not because Baylor didn't get in or TCU didn't get in. It feels like the wrong move because you had a prime opportunity to kind of call the bluff immediately, and you didn't, and they got out of it. And they had no. They didn't have to even defend it.
Well, yeah, and because you are Baylor and TCU, you didn't have as much of a national outcry of people going, hey, that's wrong. It was just like, it's Ohio State, Florida State, Oregon, and I'm forgetting, was it Bama or Oklahoma? It wasn't Oklahoma, but
I don't remember.
Whoever the fourth team was that year.
Ohio State was the fourth team.
Yeah, but the Florida State and Oregon played, and then Ohio State beat whoever in their game, and then beat Oregon. Bama, yeah. So it's Bama, Oregon. All that, and so, Florida State kind of got in on. They were still undefeated, and they were the defending champ. But really, I think Oregon exposed that they probably shouldn't have been in that four. But when you win 29 games in a row, you're probably going in, and so it is funny to me. You look back on that, but then you look at Bob Bowlsby when he was presented with another challenge, and he certainly learned from the first one. It's like, look, I'm not pulling any punches anymore. I'm going to say what I'm going to say. Texas and Oklahoma screwed us. They screwed us. They had no concern for what was going on. They're contractually, we think they did it in cahoots with some other parties, and I'm going to say that. And that ultimately staved off a lot of destruction in college football, at least in the short term. It may wind up happening one day, but at least in the short term, it staved off a lot of destruction.
I give him partial credit for that, man, because he came out, with the shoddy and was like not afraid to fire it off, but that was in response, and that was in panic mode. That wasn't from the outset of like, oh, I'm hearing rumblings about this. what's that? Let's address this. No, that was him just simply having to react, like an injured animal. I mean, that's basically what it was. That's when they're at their most dangerous, right? So, yeah, we saw a different side of Bob Bowlsby because he had no other choice. I mean, it was sit on your hands and just be the clown that everybody's pointing and laughing at because the conference is falling apart and you were none the wiser the entire time while you're shaking hands with Chris Del Conte and Joe Castiglione, and they're sitting there 5 minutes later behind your back around the corner, speculating about this entire other move that's going to maybe break down your entire conference and your job and the livelihood of other schools, while they're all none the smarter about it. And he did look like a fool there for a moment, but I guess in theory he could have just taken his lumps and just walked away like a sad clown or something. But, he did the only other option that he had, which was fight back and get angry about it. And I just kind of wish we would have seen more of that. I wish we would have seen that during the Baylor TCU thing. Like, come out and be adamant about something. Don't worry about hurting feelings, but, get your team in that playoff. Would Greg Sankey have just – we'll leave it to y'all. He might have, because guess what? He's Greg Sankey in the SEC because he knows he doesn't have to fight. ESPN's going to fight for him, or whoever. The college football media is going to, propel the SEC into the playoff more so than they will a Big 12 team that's sort of on that line. So they needed somebody to fight to get one team in there, and they got none. And even if he would have fought like we just got done saying, maybe it wouldn't have mattered in the long run. It just would have been nice to see. So my only thing is I'm glad to have seen the fight there at the end. And, yeah, you got to give him credit for moving fast, but I give him partial credit just because – it was all reactionary. Well, it wasn't visionary. And then that's the thing is like these, when you talk about Greg Sankey or other, what has the Big 12 done that's really been visionary? I mean, maybe you could say this last round of realignment and what they're projecting this to be eventually, but outside of that, I don't know. I don't really look at any areas where they really led the way or where they were the king of this or the king of that. And that's what they need more of, actually. They need more of a visionary this time around. And they're not going to probably find a Greg Sankey who's going to be able to, or any other people that were involved along the way and making the SEC what it was or the Big Ten what it was. But, I do think there is room to be a lot better than you are moving forward. And I do think the right person with the right mindset and the right vision and going back to qualities needed, like somebody who does have some idea of the media landscape and what that looks like, that would be another trait I would add in there. But that's what they need. They need somebody with the vision. They need somebody who knows the brand and knows how to take it to another level because it's kind of been sitting in neutral for a while now. And there's been times where you could have kicked it out of neutral and really hit the gas. And for one reason or another, you never did, either because you didn't have the vision to or the guts to or whatever it is. But they need that guy who has those pieces or that gal that has those pieces.
Well, and look, they anytime there probably would have been a visionary thing if it was not in the best interest of Texas and Oklahoma, it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, and that's a lot of it.
And they need a commissioner who was going and look, Bob Bowlsby for whatever reason could not say, listen, you two have to sit down and shut up, and we're going forward this way. Like he couldn't do it, and the rest of the conference also is guilty of that as well. Because when you've got 8 other teams, you could say, listen, guys, no, we're not doing it that way. We're doing it this way. But because of what eventually happened, they were just so scared of the eventuality of losing them, and you had it anyway. And like maybe had you kind of forced Texas and Oklahoma to agree to some innovation, you wouldn't be in this spot. But again, I think that's probably asking too much.
No, and that's fair to bring up, and that's a lot of why maybe certain things didn't happen when they could have happened was because the voting, power was more in, or OU and Texas were basically there to be the ones that always cancel it out or turn it in their direction or just not allow it to happen. I don't know because there's so many things over the years, but that is one benefit of this new conference is it doesn't feel like there's tiers. It feels like everybody's pretty much on that same level, entirely. And even if you're not maybe at the top of your game right now in football, like a Kansas, well, look what you're doing in basketball. Like I think this is a very well balanced out, evened out conference that can garner a lot of respect, and I think it should be able to operate on a much better level without having the two big money cats in the corner just scheming the entire time off to the side or planning ways how to shut down this plan of yours because it doesn't benefit them directly. And they got to work. I'm not knocking OU and Texas for that. They got to look out for their best interest. I'm interested to see how they're going to be as like equal team partners in the SEC, and how that works for them because they're not going to be sitting off to the corner by themselves anymore. If they are, they're going to get called out by a much bigger group in the opposite corner. Well, all the schools that are already there that don't care about their money value and all of that. They care about it to the extent that they want to add it to theirs, but they have their own, backing that they can fall back on as well. They're not as much at the mercy as some of these other schools who, if you're a small realignment shift. But if you're a current SEC team, you're set, you're good. So you have a little bit more room to probably shout them down when the time comes. But it's going to be a different look for them in that regard, and it's going to be a much different feel, I'm sure, in Big 12 meetings. So I am looking forward to more of an equal room, but I also know that comes with the drawback of, less TV or less ratings or whatever because those brands aren't as strong. So somebody who knows how to elevate brands and take a Baylor or a TCU or a Tech or a UCF or whoever and not look at them as the little brand or they're not this or they're not that. No, push them forward into becoming that. Like, create new brands. Like, break up this blue blood BS where there's been no new members of the club outside of like one or two in like 50 years, that have been added. I mean, that country club's never going to be broken up, but man, go build your own and make it fun and make it cool, make it unique. And it doesn't have to be like the other one. It could be, its own unique thing. And it might not make as much money, but it can still make money. I might not be a billionaire, but I can still be a 50 millionaire, and I'll take that 10 times out of 10. So, it's not going to be equal footing to what they were doing, but there's still a lot of room for excitement and there's room to be creative.
I tend to think Oklahoma will kind of maybe fall more in line with the SEC and kind of enjoy the spoils of the comfort that comes with that league, as where Texas might, But I don't know, like, look, if everything's great for you and you don't need, like, Texas just has it kind of ingrained in their DNA that they have to be the loudest voice in the room for better or for worse.
I mean, that's been the story, but we'll see how that goes in a much bigger room. Yeah.
It's all different now, when nobody else is going to be impressed by it.
See, I think a lot of people focus in on, Texas needing this ego stroke, and I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think this is just simply a money-driven, future securing deal. And look, they were never going to be, they could go off and be an independent. So I don't think they were ever truly too worried about, needing a conference to be in. Like, they always knew that they were one of the only schools in the Big 12 that no matter what, if everything just disintegrated and they start from scratch, Texas is going to be a top 5, top 10 pick. Everybody else, they're asking how many rounds there are because they don't know if they're going to have, a seat on the boat. But Texas and Oklahoma, no, they're secure no matter what scenario for forever. And so I think this was just about wanting to be in a conference where they feel like they are that distinguished brand amongst other distinguished brands, whereas it sort of feels like they were in a brand, and maybe Oklahoma was on their level, but they were above everybody else. And that arrogance I don't like, and I've never liked, and that's always been my biggest I think thing that I dislike about Texas. Really, that's where it all stems from, is just that sort of arrogance factor. That's all. It's just it conflicts with my personality, and some people embrace it and love to be even more brash and arrogant, and it's not for me. But they're going to be in a room with a lot of people who are on their level, or who they feel are on their level, and they're not going to be looking their noses down. So that will be interesting, and I think it will also be beneficial for the Big 12 to actually look around the room, and instead of having to look up when you cross two different people, all 10, 12, 14 are, seeing eye to eye. And that'll be different for the Big 12 too, and that should be beneficial this time around.
And look, joining the SEC could have been the tipping point for the ego, where it's like, well, this has only gotten us so far, and, gotta secure the future. And again, they did something that financially everybody and their mother would have done, Yeah, no,
it made sense for the brand and for the money. Like, that was what it was all about. It wasn't about winning championships and doing, no, it was all about,
it never is.
It was about NIL, opportunities. It was about, TV gobs and gobs and gobs of ungodly money. And it was about, big matchups and those things. It wasn't, that's what it was all about.
Look, if it was about winning conference championships, Vanderbilt would have left a long time ago.
Right, exactly,
And found somewhere where they can win. Okay, when we come back, we are going to talk, and it's not something we do often, but we're going to talk Boston College and their spring, because they're a team on the rise in the ACC. So if you got Boston College questions in the chat, shoot them our way. But Phil Jurkovec, one of the best quarterbacks in the country, plays in Chestnut Hill. Interesting to see if they can continue their rise in the ACC. This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
It's Ram Truck Month at Allen Samuels. The new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab has all the quality for work or play. Impressive towing capabilities, heavy-duty payload capacity, smooth ride, and an interior design is why Ram is the first truck ever to win #1 overall in initial quality according to J.D. Power. When looking for a truck that can do it all, come see the possibilities. First responders get a $500 discount. Shop AllenSamuelsDCJ.com or come in and see the huge selection of brand new cars and trucks.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Welcome back in, Sick 365 Radio 365 Sports. Andy Backstrom, EagleAction.com, part of the Rivals.com network, joins us now. And Andy, thanks so much for being on the show. Boston College saw a nice little uptick last year. Part of that is they've got a really good quarterback, an exciting player in Phil Yurkovich, who's back again for another season. Do you think this is a Boston College team, given the fact that outside of Clemson, and they were even down a little bit last year, that the ACC is as wide open as it's ever been?
Thanks for having me on, Paul. Yeah, I mean, the ACC is definitely interesting. The perception is that it's declined in terms of talent and competition in regard to the college football playoff. I think last year was BC's best shot to contend for an Atlantic title. I think people forget about Wake Forest. They're bringing back a lot of talent, too. I think Wake, BC, and Clemson are definitely some of the teams you think about. But FSU is kind of back on the rise. It's a sleeping giant, but I think they could be in play as well. BC's got a tough schedule of play, but I think they'll be in that conversation for sure.
So, Andy, does it kind of start as far as the offseason hype with Yurkovich and just what he was able to do last year and what he could potentially be able to do this season?
So, yeah, it's interesting because people didn't even think he was going to be around this year because they thought he played so well last year that he'd go to the NFL draft, given that it's a weaker class for quarterbacks. What ended up happening was that in week 2, he suffered a season-threatening injury. It was actually non-contact, fell on his throwing hand, ended up hurting his wrist and was out for 6 games. Ended up coming back for the final 4 games. Just wasn't 100%. Had some good moments, had some bad moments. That grip strength wasn't 100%. Now he's back again, and the hype is that he could be, BC's best prospect since Matt Ryan. So obviously, the intangibles are there. He's 6'5", 230. He can move well. Kind of a dual threat guy in high school. Developed more as a pocket passer in college. But very mobile. So that's definitely where the hype starts. And then also he's got a wide receiver in Zay Flowers, who's probably going to be BC's first wideout drafted since 1987. So this is a guy who's very dynamic, almost kind of like Deebo Samuel in the sense of you want to get him the ball every play. That's just how important he is to Boston College. He can run with it. He can catch it. He's a downfield threat, but he also can make moves at the line of scrimmage in space.
What do you think will be kind of the swing moment for them, whether we know they're a real contender or not? How early in the season do you think that comes?
I think we'll know very early. And unlike last year, they played a cakewalk schedule to start last season. They started 4-0. They went to Death Valley. Then they lost 4 straight games in the ACC play. This year, on the other hand, they started Rutgers, they host Rutgers. And Rutgers is not going to be a pushover like they have been for much of the last decade. And then they go to Virginia Tech. They play in Blacksburg, probably a night game. You're going to learn quickly. A couple weeks later, they play against FSU in Tallahassee. Those are 2 tough road environments. I think we'll know 4 weeks in what kind of Boston College team we have. So that when Clemson comes on October 8th, we'll have a picture of whether or not that's actually going to have any stake for the Atlantic Division.
Andy, I got to go back. First receiver drafted since 1987.
That's correct.
Yeah, I just looked. Kelvin Martin, drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. How in the world did they not have a receiver, like a single guy drafted since 1987?
It's interesting because the last couple of years, they've actually had some guys that have been in the NFL. Jeff Smith, the guy at the New York Jets, he kind of got a shot because he ran a sub 4.3 unofficial at BC's Pro Day, and he's kind of stuck around on the active roster / practice squad. Michael Walker was a guy who was with the Jags for a little bit. So they've had some guys in the NFL for a little bit here and there, mostly because of roster problems for those organizations, but they haven't had a guy drafted in decades. And it's mainly because BC has a reputation of running the football down your throat.
Right.
Think about A.J. Dillon, Andre Williams, even other guys that are not as big names, John Hillman, guys that just can pound it down your throat. And O-line U is another reputation that BC has, producing big O-linemen that will just block for you up front. So passing is kind of something that's come back into the fold with Jurkovich, and it's something that they're planning to incorporate a lot this year with the new offense coordinator, John McNulty.
Do you think that they have some coaching staff continuity, and for the first time in a while, it felt like they were kind of making reactionary hires for a while there at BC?
So, yeah, they had some changeover this year because the offensive coordinator, Frank Signetti Jr., ended up going to Pitt. which is a hometown school for him. He's from Pittsburgh. And so he's there now. So they brought in a new offensive coordinator and 3 new position coaches. So there is more change staff-wise this year than there was last year. But it's actually a welcome change because the assistants that they did lose ended up with NFL teams. And the ones that they brought in, they're hoping is a better mix in terms of it used to be a very youthful staff as Hafley first came in. Now there's a little bit more of experience mixing in with that youth, and they're hoping that's a better blend, especially for the offense.
So John McNulty, the new OC, he's been around the block a few times. What is it about him, or what's kind of the message been as far as what he's looking to do? Having a great wide receiver, a great quarterback to work with. What are you kind of expecting out of the Eagles offense?
Yeah, so BC is going to move away from a pro-style offense. That's what they had with Frank Signetti. It's going to be a little bit more like the college game. You're going to have the RPOs, quick passing, getting the ball to playmakers in space, probably going to swing some running backs outside. McNulty's coming from Notre Dame. He was the tight ends coach there for a few years. He's been around the block, as you said, but most recently in Notre Dame. And he said he really liked what Tommy Rees is doing there in terms of just kind of playing positionless on offense, just getting your guys, whether it was last year switching Chris Tyree to more of like a wide receiver than a running back. And he's really interested in doing that at BC too. So they've got some guys that might typically run up at running back. You'll see out wide. I think it's going to be a lot of personnel packages, mostly 12 with 2 tight ends, probably some 11, and even some 13 with some 3 tight end sets. So it's going to be interesting what they do, but definitely more college-like. Probably getting the ball out quicker. Problem with the offense the last couple of years was pro style, and it took a while for plays and progressions to develop. So it was kind of hit or miss. Sometimes they hit on the deep ball, but other times Dracovic was kind of swarmed because no matter how well they protected up front, the plays were taking too long to develop.
Andy Backstrom, EagleAction.com, part of the Rivals.com network, here with us on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Andy, great stuff. Enjoy the spring. Do they do a game, or is it more of a scrimmage?
It's more of a scrimmage, but they call it a game. It's actually tomorrow at 11 a.m., so they'll be kicking off a slate of ACC spring games tomorrow. First time it's open to the public since 2019 because of the pandemic. So it'll be good to have some energy in there. And look forward to the 2022 season.
All right, Andy, absolutely. We're going to have you back as the season progresses and things go on. Thank you so much for hopping on the show today. Appreciate it. Nice to talk to you for the first time. Nice to meet you. Welcome to the family, so to speak.
Thank you. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me on. Right. Have a good one.
All right. Andy Backstrom with us talking BC. And then we're going to try to do as many of those as we can and kind of get the perspective from around the country because we have people watching from around the country. BC is interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean they're not a team that I think of all that often. I'll be honest with you.
Well, they're in my guys' division.
No,
so
I understand that. Yeah, but in Big 12 countries, like not often we just talk about Boston College, or not often I think about Boston College. But yeah, I mean having your Kovic back is massive for them. Like he said, could have been an NFL guy not that long ago, and then just unfortunately injuries wiped out last year for the most part. But Zay Flowers is a really good player, and it's always interesting. The positionless he's talking about that. It's a lot of like what Dave Arend and them were doing. I was doing all these reviews and stuff, and you might have a guy listed as a tight end, but he actually played just as much fullback, or he's more of an H-back, or he even played. Like there's guys who are just kind of it's just wherever you can fit at any given time, ultimately, with some of these guys where they do become sort of positionless and they're not just one thing. That has become or has been, a trend around college football. Definitely saw it with Baylor, and, it'd be interesting to see how that plays into BC's hands. But, definitely got excitement. I do think he's right, though, he's right about, kind of the Florida State sleeping giant and just the sort of the opportunity that may have been there and how much longer that window is really open because it has kind of been, it was Clemson or bust. And maybe last year there was a brief window for everybody else. And, Miami, obviously, Cristobal, I mean, they're going to be rip-roaring and ready to go. And Virginia Tech's made changes. And so the ACC is pretty interesting, but that still is crazy to me. No wide receiver drafted. I mean, the reason why it's crazy is he's not talking about first round. He's talking about period.
At all.
Like, not even a pick since 1987.
There were 12
Not
rounds.
one.
There were 12 rounds until what, 90?
I understand you got A.J. Dillon and you got all these cats that came through there and you were more of a running team, but not a single wide receiver since 1987. And I'm sure there's other schools that have they haven't had a tight end since 45 or whatever, but that's still just to hear that is pretty crazy.
Georgia Tech was running the triple option and got a Hall of Famer drafted.
Exactly, yeah,
and
one of the
Calvin
best of all
Johnson.
time.
So, I mean, sometimes you just get guys.
Yeah, that's just not a
come
stat
through. Yeah, it's
that
weird.
I would have known about, but that was interesting to hear that. Yeah, you're right, though. Yeah, one of the greatest of all time was at Georgia Tech when they were not trying to really, be the air raid or anything.
Running the inverted wishbone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they were doing at Georgia Tech at the time.
That's going to change as they flower. So,
absolutely.
good for them.
Yeah. All right. When we come back, we'll talk Baylor with SicEm365.com's Grayson Grudenhafer and his weekly segment, SicEm365.com, SicEm365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T is board-certified physician consultations, will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Grayson Grundhafer of Sikkim365.com. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Welcome back in Sikkim 365 Radio. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. Smokey is off today. Grayson Grundhafer, Sikkim365.com. Grayson, we are now just 2 short weeks away from the spring football game for Baylor. And, just noticed the other day, and I'll ask you this. I don't know why I'm not enough for the Baylor community to consider out of the transfer portal from FSU, but Corey Wren, running back, wide receiver, they're interested in him. What do they think he can bring to the table if they can get him here in the 254?
Yeah, he's honestly a really interesting one, I would say. And the reason I say that is because he doesn't really fit the mold of what I kind of expected them needing. Just because he's kind of an offensive weapon, not necessarily a big outside receiver, not necessarily a true, every down running back like an Abram Smith. That's just not really his game. But if you watch him, there's a burst about him and an athleticism about him that's just unique. And you need as many offensive weapons as you can possibly have. And in Jeff Grimes' scheme, I just feel like he could be a very nice fit. So, yeah, I think special teams, he's obviously a major plus as well with them losing Treston Ebner. He'd be a nice pickup there, but it's going to be tough, Paul. I mean, this is a guy that a lot of schools want. I think initially many people thought he was going to automatically commit to Oregon because the offensive coordinator moved to Oregon, Dillingham. So I kind of think everyone thought he was going to end up there, but he's been in the portal for over a week and hasn't made a commitment public. So the longer it goes, I think the better Baylor could be as far as having a chance to actually land him. But yeah, it's a really interesting one. And I think he's more of a best available type than he is a true kind of need for what they, are kind of lacking on the depth chart.
Well, Grayson, we do know one transfer they did get. That was Josh White last weekend. You helped to break that. I know that when Smokey talked to Dave Aranda, the clearinghouse stuff was still going through, so Aranda hadn't been able to talk about him specifically just yet. But what kind of a reaction did you kind of gather from the staff in terms of the addition of Josh White? And have you been able to, get any more clarity, or do you have a better idea of just kind of what they are working with potentially as far as open spots in the transfer portal?
Yeah, so I guess the first part of that is kind of just Josh White in general. So I think if you kind of look at their roster, it was looking like they were going to move Matt Jones to the will linebacker spot. And while Matt can play that, I think most people feel his best position is still that jack linebacker spot. And I also think Mike linebacker actually fits him better as well, but obviously Dylan Doyle is there playing that position currently. So I think this was kind of a no-brainer. You have Dylan Doyle, a guy who is not the most athletic guy you're ever going to see, but his instincts and, the way that he plays the game and his toughness really makes up for that. But to have an elite athlete next to him is something that is really, really special and can make this defense even better. Because Trell Bernard, while fast, we saw that 4.6 40, sub 4.6 40, very fast. Josh White is another level of that. I think Josh White probably will run sub 4.5 at 225 pounds. And because of that, now you have more athleticism on the field. And so I think that excitement is big, but also the fact that Matt Jones can play jack while also being the backup Will and Mike linebacker provides more depth at the position, a position that they really have a lot of young guys at. So I think this was a no-brainer. Josh White was a top 150 prospect in the 2020 class, a guy who has just this amazing relationship with Dave Aranda. Like the notes that I've posted online, I mean, these two they've been connected since the moment he committed to LSU and signed with LSU. And it just has kept staying that way. And when he visited Baylor and got to talk to Dave Aranda, it became a no-brainer for him. He committed on the spot, Dave Aranda jumping up and down, which is something that, none of us really see a lot. I mean, just the smile, the how excited he was. I think it really made Josh go, man, they really want me. And I think Dave definitely made him feel that way. And Josh trusts Dave. And that's a big part of this decision as well. So it's a great pickup culturally. The guy's an absolute monster. I don't think he'll be at Baylor for more than 2 years. I think he's an NFL guy. Based on the film and everything I've seen, I really think he's going to be a great player at Baylor. Now, as far as the other side of that, the transfer portal side and how many spots they may have, I still think it's fluctuating a little bit because they still have spring football that they're going to go through. They might have more attrition on the roster. And then on the other hand, other schools are having that same problem. So I would say it's still too early to gauge how many spots they have. But what I do know is they have room to add guys. And if the right guys enter the portal, then they will definitely be aggressive and go after them.
Do you get a feeling on spots that they will, or is that something like, we know that they don't have a real clear picture of what the wide receiver lineup is going to be like? Is that one of those things that could be after spring football where you're like, well, they don't like X position. Let's go see what's in the portal right now.
Well, guys, not only is that group young, it's banged up already. And that's part of having a young wide receiving group. They're losing numbers by the day, it seems, at the wide receiver position. So, honestly, that would not surprise me at all. If the right guy enters the portal, I think they definitely need to give it a look. I talked to Craig about this on the Bearcast, and I'm sure you can attest to this too, Paul. There's not been a single year, at least since I've been covering Baylor, where they didn't return at least one receiver who had production.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean real production, not 200 yards receiving. And this group has just like none of that. Outside of Ben Sims, who's a tight end, there's just not a lot there. And so it's kind of hard for me to imagine that they go into the season feeling okay with the group. So that's why you look at Corey Wren. Corey Wren could play slot receiver, and then you go, okay, maybe they have a little bit more experience there by adding him. But yeah, I think they're still going to be aggressive at that position. I still think the field safety position is very much in the air. I just don't know that they have a guy to replace JT Woods on the roster. I love Devin Neal. I love Christian Morgan, but I feel like they're much better at boundary or star than they are at the field safety position. So I think that's another area they could look. And then obviously cornerback as well. They've definitely been looking at that position. And I think I've mentioned running back before, but I think with the progression of Tate McWilliams, I'm not sure that that's as likely anymore.
So other than that, they're good. It's half the team's a question mark, but.
Yeah, I think the good part about it, though, Craig, is that we're talking about, like, upgrading. You know what I mean? It's not just adding bodies to add bodies like we saw at, Texas Tech last year, where they just had to add transfers to add bodies to the roster. They're only going to take guys if they're really good. And I think, Dave Aranda's track record in the transfer portal definitely speaks to the quality that they bring in out of the portal.
Well, they've only had 3 guys, right, gone. So that, as far as portal, so that like other teams like Texas Tech lost so many they had to, because Baylor hasn't lost guys through just I'm leaving by. It's all been graduation or NFL.
Right. Yeah. And I think that speaks to the culture at Baylor. Guys don't really want to leave Baylor. That's just how it is. Even if guys aren't playing, we've seen guys spend their whole career at Baylor and not play many snaps at all. And I think that just speaks more to the culture that's been built through Matt Rhule and then, of course, Dave Aranda now.
Yeah, I was going to say, R.J. Sneed was one exception there, but, it has been pretty steady in that regard. And when I was writing an article about the corners the other day, when they talked, it was kind of alarming to me, Grayson, that, okay, you just slot in Al Walcott, okay, that's good. And then Mark Milton, okay, some experience, but a little bit of a question mark, certainly, like as far as a starting corner week in and week out goes. And then the 3 backups they listed, those guys have, like, no experience at all, so they're top 5 corners. There's a lot of athleticism and speed and size and things, but I was kind of alarmed by that. So when you mentioned them as part of the portal, that would make a lot of sense as well, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And they need to develop that room. I think I've talked about a lot in the recruiting segments we've, discussed about just kind of, they're going to have to take cornerbacks in the 2023 class. That's definitely a priority position. But on the flip side, there's a lot of talent on the roster. And I think there's going to be a lot of guys that maybe surprise people at the cornerback position, especially guys like Tevin Williams and Reggie Bush, the true freshman who enrolled early. Those are two guys that definitely come to mind. But I also think, if you look kind of beyond that, they have guys who are young. And so they still need to look into the portal because you're exactly right. Like if they can find a guy who they feel so confident in Al Walcott. Now, can they find another guy that they feel that confident in?
Right.
And while I love Mark Milton, I don't know if he's a true every down starter. Like we really haven't seen that throughout his career. He's kind of been a depth piece for their roster a lot. Now, maybe that changes this year. Maybe they feel great about Mark and maybe he steps in a starting role. That would alleviate a lot of concerns, but I still think experience depth is very, very hard to replace.
Yeah, I mean, it's all three of the backup or the young trio that he mentioned. It's great. They're young, they're talented, they're starting to understand it, but like they've got no experience whatsoever. Chateau Reed and AJ McCarthy. What they have had has been pretty much special teams. If they've even had that, so that was kind of a little bit of a all right. Let's see what happens here. Now, Grayson, what they did add this week, and correct me on the pronunciation here. Matthew Kloffenstein or Kloffenstein, I don't know for sure, commits to Baylor. Arizona tight end. Correct me, please, and tell me more about the addition of him to this Baylor recruiting class.
Yeah, so it's Matthew Kloffenstein.
Okay.
Out of Horizon. So he's an Arizona guy out of Scottsdale, and it's really interesting. Baylor hasn't had a lot of guys out of Arizona. The last guy I can think of is Drew Dixon, who wasn't even on scholarship. He was a walk-on who was at Air Force and then came over to Baylor. They haven't had a ton of guys from Arizona on the roster, but Hawkins is a great guy. I mean, really, really good dude. And just honestly, he visited March 24th and fell in love with Baylor. The Baylor staff really likes him. They feel like he kind of fits what they need at tight end, especially the receiving part. If you watch his game, he's a physical blocker, but his receiving game is really, really impressive. He had 43 receptions for 562 yards and 10 touchdowns during his junior season. He's right around 6'5", 230 pounds. So great height, good size. And I think if you watch him, he, again, just fits what they need. They have Hawkins Polley already committed. They wanted to take 2 tight ends in this class. And landing a guy of this quality is just massive. I mean, he's a 4-star guy, according to many sites. And I believe he's a 4-star guy just watching him. Great length. Solid after the catch, which is something really rare at the tight end position. That really moves you up a level when you can make plays after you catch the football. So I really like him. He had 24 offers: Arizona State, Michigan State, Tennessee, Wisconsin. Many offers. Really good player and a guy that I think helps take this Baylor recruiting class to another level. And I mean, they're 6th in the entire nation right now with 9 commits. So I think Baylor's doing a great job evaluating talent while also making sure that the players that they get to commit fit the culture perfectly. And that's how you set up success for the long run instead of just immediate success.
Yeah, Grayson, they had another tight end prospect in from, and I can't remember his name. I was here and filmed his interview with Brian that day. Maybe it was you, but they had another guy in from Arizona. So that was a tight end. I know it wasn't Matthew Kloffenstein, but it looks like they're kind of going in that area, like they're starting to recruit in that area a little bit.
Yeah, maybe.
He was in the summer camp. He was one of the guys that, like, I remember the story his mother told was like, hey, we were at the Notre Dame camp and they called us and we flew down here. So
yeah, no. Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about. I don't even think he ended up getting an offer. But yes, they are looking towards Arizona. I will say Eric Mateos' influence in that Utah kind of west area is really interesting. He's done a really nice job recruiting. You'll see many Utah offers that would have never happened in the past under any coaching staff in the past that Mateos has been offering, and obviously doing a really nice job of that. I mean, they've been able to have some success in Utah, which is not really very common for Baylor to go out that way. And so same with Arizona. Obviously, George Maye is the commit that comes to mind from Utah. So yeah, they're really expanding their recruiting tree a little bit. And it's really interesting because they all fit the same mold culturally. They all fit exactly what Dave Aranda's trying to build at Baylor. And I think that's the most intriguing part, is that they're able to go out of state and just find guys. They're not necessarily going for the number one guy in the state. They're going for a top guy in the state who also fits the culture and loves, the idea of going to Baylor. And then when they get to Baylor, they fall in love with it. And so I think that's been really, really impressive about Dave Aranda and this whole coaching staff, honestly.
Grayson Grunhaver, SicEm365.com. Grayson, enjoy the weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
There we go. All right, we'll open in the next couple of segments. At 4:45, we'll talk Arizona and their rebuild here on SicEm 365 Radio and 365 Sports. But Will Nixon transfers from Nebraska to Washington. We'll talk about that in just a second. This, SicEm 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. Keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Welcome back to SicEm 365 Radio.
Travis delivers. Parchment down to the 1. Parchment atoning for that earlier error. 24 yards on the cusp of scoring.
And would you look at that? When you need it the most, Jordan Travis steps up and he uses his arm on 4th and 14.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
So I'm going to explain that highlight for a second. That was an FSU highlight. We were going to have an FSU segment today, and the guy who committed to us had a really bad allergy attack and couldn't talk anymore, which is a new one for me. But he committed, and then so maybe we'll get him after next week. But he said his voice is really bad. So
that's karma for Paul trying to make this a Homer show.
I know. That's what I get. That's what I get. I was just trying to have some synergy.
By the way, just wanted to. I'm sorry to interject here, but did y'all see the hole-in-one?
Oh, yeah, Stuart Sink?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've seen everybody going crazy on the timeline over that, and the fact that his son's on his. I guess his son's on the bag, and his son is also celebrating a birthday today. So think about that. Stuart Sink's got his son with him. It's his birthday. And he hits a hole-in-one at the Masters. That's pretty cool on 16.
He needs a couple more to make the cut, but if you're not going to make the cut, might as well go out the door with that hole-in-one. I mean, everybody's fired up. Did you see the lady behind him that was just jumping up and down? Yeah. Just fired up. I mean, it's unbelievable. I saw VJ Singh hit one at the Byron Nelson one year, and it was the weirdest thing I've maybe ever witnessed as a sports spectator, in that you have it, Armstrong. We'll play it here in a second. But I was with my friend Matt Crawford, who used to work at the radio station with me, and we were walking around the Byron Nelson and having a big old time there in Dallas. And Moose Johnston and his wife were sitting at the tent we were at getting a drink. And then VJ Singh was playing, and we had stopped there because the massive crowd that was following Phil Mickelson was there. And so we were just like, hey, let's wait for this Phil crowd to go, and we'll see. And so then VJ Singh gets up, hits a hole-in-one, and it was like me and Matt and Moose and Mrs. Moose that saw it, and no one else did because everyone was following Phil. Like if you told everybody else in the course, like, hey, VJ just hit a hole-in-one on this Phil that Phil had a 4 on, no one cared because they were all, Phil was winking and gunning all the way down. But
sure.
Here is the video of Stuart Sink with the ace on 16 at Augusta National today.
Sink. Oh, yes, you can use that slope. Yes, it might go in.
That's something else right there.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah,
not a lot of moments like that in sports. That you go hole-in-one at the Masters. Now, only thing would be if there's title on the line. You're really gonna juice it up. But that's a special feeling, and I guess the son connection there. With his son is his caddy on his birthday again. That's just a really cool. A piece of timing right there, but yeah, that had to feel good. That had to feel great,
especially when you don't think. I love it. Like they don't realize, like, oh, we're just gonna go walk and walk and walk, and then oh, look, holy crap, it's in. Yeah. Tommy Fleetwood holed that 16 last year at the Masters, and there's always something wild and crazy that's going to happen. I will give a quick update on how we're all doing.
Okay. I see Matsuyama there, but that might I don't see anybody else.
So here's the deal. Armstrong has Gary Woodland, so he's out.
Okay.
I have Brooks Koepka, who's the favorite, and it's missed the cut, so I'm out. Smokey has 2 different guys who have missed the cut, Sam Burns and somebody else who I'm blanking on right now. You have Bryson DeChambeau, who is well on his way to missing the cut. So Rob Bolton is going to win this before the weekend. So that's how it's going for us there. So anyway, at 4:45, we'll talk Arizona, a team in the midst of a total top-down rebuild, and where they are in the second spring under Coach Fish and what's going on there in Tucson. But first, Craig, we know Will Nixon really well. His dad, Jeff Nixon, was the offensive coordinator at Baylor. He played at Midway. We did his games. He was fantastic and fun to watch. He committed to Nebraska, played there. He has 4 years of eligibility. He's just transferred to Washington. 5'11", 180, a tweener, a guy that you can kind of do a lot of things with. he can maybe fit in that positionless mold a little bit. But again, he's not a big guy. There's not a lot to Will Nixon. Very athletic. Didn't really make any waves at Nebraska, but now he is joining another Central Texan in JV on Sunday, who's in Washington, and he's going up to play for new coach Kalen DeBoer there for the Huskies. Thoughts on Nixon's move?
I mean, good for him that he's getting an opportunity to, play still at a very high level. He's staying in the Power 5 and, at a brand like Washington. I think that's pretty cool. It's a beautiful part of the country I've never been to that is on my bucket list, so to speak, is to make it up there to the Northwest. But, beautiful place and, a program, obviously, that could use his help, and I'm curious to how much he can really provide that. I mean, to be perfectly honest, it's not even a size thing because Will's bigger than a lot of other guys that I've seen go off to play college and they had success despite being a lot smaller than he is. He's not really small. He's not 6'1" and 225. He's okay size wise. But yeah, I don't know where he fits in. He's a running back. He's a wide receiver. I would assume that he's going to probably be more of the slot guy, like I guess it was what he was doing in Nebraska somewhat. He never really got traction there, so it's kind of hard to gauge what the plans were for him. I know he's a wide receiver, but to what extent they were going to expand that with him, I don't know. And he was injured throughout his Nebraska career, so we never really got to see him, other than a couple of times last year. We never really got to see him play all that much. So, a guy who's kind of coming in with a blank slate, I guess, in my opinion, and will have an opportunity to prove himself and get some playing time. I don't know if he will or not. I mean, just being perfectly honest with you, I don't know, but I love Will. As far as when I was able to get to know him a little bit, just covering Midway and all that, and seemed like a great young man. And his father was very cool and all that. So I'm wishing him the best. I mean, there's far worse landing spots in Washington when you hit in the transfer portal, that's for sure. But to what extent he can actually help them, I really don't know. I just got to see him stay healthy for a little while.
Well, and they're not starting completely from scratch, but it's kind of a new day after the Jimmy Lake debacle that they had there. Sure. And so Kalen DeBoer comes in and changes things up.
They went from playoff team to basically irrelevant.
Yeah. I mean,
it wasn't that long ago. They were right there in the mix and, in the playoff. And I'm thinking about how many teams have sniffed it but haven't gotten in it just yet. I mean, the number of teams that have been able to crack that thing are very, very small. Yeah. It's a very small number. But, yeah, then the Jimmy Lake thing, that did not work.
The Athletic had a column on Jimmy Lake this week and all that. And echoed a lot of what our buddy Softy Mahler had said about Jimmy Lake. They were doing a show there, and he took a picture of 3 guys running sprints and put it on Twitter, and Jimmy Lake came up in the booth and yelled at him for exposing trade secrets. And he's like, this like the first 3 guys out. That was the tweet, was like, here's the first 3 guys out for the spring game. And Jimmy Lake's trying to, throw him out the window for that. So
I typically find when coaches are resorting to getting that petty over stuff, then that's pretty much the writing on the wall that things aren't going well.
It's the Gary Patterson meter, where
exactly right.
you start getting focused on everything else that doesn't matter,
And I could say even with Baylor and the problems they went through with Bryles when all that was going on, there was never really any of that, to the point of, lashing out at the media and y'all can't say this, at least none that I can recall. They closed down practices for a while, like we didn't get to be around, but there wasn't a no, don't take a picture of a guy out on the practice field or we're going to yell at you kind of a thing. Or the head coach is going to yell at you, much less.
I would get cagey about things and kind of go high school coach sometimes, but it was never what I would consider full-blown paranoia.
No, there was
there was that
rule, no.
Yeah, rule, no. No. And
Aranda for sure not.
And the other thing is with Aranda is, the access is not going to be there so that anybody could. I mean,
right,
it's just,
exactly.
It's so, and that's part of the plan there. It's like, look, he's not going to flip out about anything. I don't think he's, it would take a lot to make him flip out, but he's one of those guys who doesn't, I don't think you told him, like, hey, look at this guy said about you on Twitter. He's like, well, I don't know that guy. Who cares?
I've actually been wanting to ask Dave Aranda what his thoughts are on social media.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And maybe tomorrow that will be the day that I do that. But I'm trying to think of how to phrase it to get a
good
answer.
How here's how I would ask it. Is social media something, as a coach you have to have? How do you consider the best effective use of it? And then just let him go, because he'll probably tell you, he's not
Well, his use is, I think, 3 tweets since he was hired 2 years ago. So, I mean, his use is very limited. And I've said before, I don't think he probably even knows his password. I'm not trying to discredit him, but I just don't think he probably cares.
I think if you see a lot of those coaches that don't have 3 outward tweets, most of their stuff on Twitter is probably direct messages.
Yeah.
It's probably
now you got to do the recruiting thing and keep up with all that.
But it's probably direct messages to recruits and all that.
Let's see. How many has he? Okay, no, it's more like 20-something, maybe. All spread out.
Yeah, the only stuff I've ever really seen from him are, stuff that he probably didn't really write. It was just like,
it was the secretary.
Here's an infographic. Go ahead and put that out. Kind of a thing. That's not his wheelhouse. And look, it's not. Here's the thing. I don't think you can win on social media anymore. I think Urban Meyer was kind of famous for early on in his tenure at Florida. He had old coaches all around him in that region who didn't know anything about it. Like Bobby Bowden. Like, are you going to get Bobby Bowden on Twitter? Especially right at the beginning of Twitter? No. But, how do you get guys like the Pouncey twins and all that? You hit him up on Twitter, and he was doing that. And that's where he kind of started maybe getting his leg up on getting in the door where, the Ron Zook wasn't, And so...
we see Lane Kiffin use it to an advantage in a way.
But I don't think now, since everybody has access to it and knows how to use it for the most part. Does Nick Saban use Twitter? No. So it doesn't matter. That's why you'll never see Nick Saban on the Gary Patterson scale. Gary Patterson went on Twitter, and what happened? He was already a guy who's kind of hot-tempered, and then you get on Twitter. If you're already a guy who gets mad at little things, don't go on Twitter. Dear God, Twitter's all little things designed to make you mad.
Right.
So, that's, I think you should be able to, I'm all for people having access to everything, but you should have to pass a test before you go on social media of does this make you mad? Yeah, then just don't do it for your own safety. For your own sanity, don't fall down this rabbit hole. Just live your life.
You're in the rabbit hole right now, ranting on Twitter. But I get it. Different strokes, different folks. Aranda's not one to really use it all that much, really is the point, and doesn't need to. He's got other guys to do that. But, you could probably do a breakdown or a study on how it's been beneficial for some programs versus others. Somebody like an Evan Miyakawa who's, nerdy, and I say that as a compliment when it comes to numbers and analytics. There's probably some study that 247 or something could put together as far as that goes, and how Lane Kiffin's been able to, use the platform to become the portal king or whatever. But I think Aranda or Saban or however many other countless coaches we just don't think about that don't utilize it, that do just fine for themselves. So to each their own, and a lot of different ways to get the same job done, I think is what we see time and again when looking at that. You can have it and win, and it can be a part of it. You can not have it and still win, and not have to worry about it. And that's probably the more fun way to do it, is to not to worry about it.
Yep, absolutely. All right, we'll take a break right here. We'll come back. We'll get into the chat room. We haven't really done that today. Texts as well. And then at 4:45, we'll talk Arizona and see what it's like to observe a team building literally from the ground up, because it has been really bad for the Wildcats for a long time there in the desert. This is Signal 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street. Look, it's Friday. Going to head up to a party. You're going to do something. You need a, maybe a gift for the host. Well, what do? Go to Riverbend Liquor and Wine, and, if they're like high in bourbon, if they're a craft beer person, if they're a wine person, if they're a gin person, if they're a vodka person, believe me, they've got great selections and great things that you can bring to the table, and people will love you for it, because they're always churning the roster. They've always got great new stuff there at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. And look, it's a small place, but man, it's effective when it's got all these great brands, all these great high-end whiskeys, all these great craft beers that they have at Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nitsche Group Insurance Agency. With the Nitsche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nitsche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nitsche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Erie Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. And you're about to approach this time of the year where you have the holidays, special gifts. It's not that you don't have that every single day. What are some of the things you have coming up?
You know, we kind of call ourselves the wedding ring store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves, probably 9 out of 10 every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me examples that you could fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Erie in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
Emery Winter, hard at work on the YouTube channel.
Seen a lot of realignment talk in that one little clip. Something about AAU teams not getting an SEC or no Big Ten invite. We've known that, but I guess I don't know. I'm not seeing the initial discussion. I guess people debating on, you know, who could go where. I saw somebody there just mentioning Oklahoma State trying to sneak into the SEC.
Yeah.
So basically, if it was up to the fans out there, the Big 12 would be falling apart at the seams.
Yeah.
I think the leaders are keeping it together because all you guys have ideas of how to get everybody back out now that it's settled down. So.
Yeah, and it does look like a lot of people, like, you know, a lot of people are, I think the Big 12 has moved down the list of conferences likely to break up, and now the ACC appears like the one that fans think is going to be a mess because, well, I think so. I mean, just reading some of the chat like I do,
well, I mean, what's realistic, though, and what's not? Because you can say all you want to, like, oh, the ACC is going to break up, but last I checked, they got a contract that's in play for quite a while.
Yeah, so they've got a more than a decade left on that contract with ESPN. So
they're not the ones coming up; it's everybody else that's coming up.
Maybe that's why they think so. Just in like a decade of this crappy TV contract will piss everyone off to where 10 years from now. And look, these things, while they move kind of fast in the decision phase of like Texas and Oklahoma, like we're out, like in the execution phase, it's slow. So again, 5 years from now, the best 5 ACC teams could decide we're sick of this television contract. We don't see anything getting better, so let's bolt. So maybe that's why people say that. But again, there's just so many different hurdles and then things that make sense or don't make sense. And I think sometimes brands that are maybe overvalued as to what or their university clout, because and just speaking personally, look, Florida State's a great brand and everybody knows it because we were great in the 90s and in 2013. But the university is still kind of, they don't have the kind of push and pull that some of the other ones do as an institution.
I'd just be curious for the chatters out there that are big into realignment talk and things like that. If you're let's say an Oklahoma State fan, and just apply your school however you want to. But if you're one of those that's talking about, or I see a lot of Kansas fans, lots of Kansas fans, we're going to the Big Ten. We're going to go to the Big Ten. We're going to be in the Big Ten. I guess my question is that something that you want because of the money and the security, or is that something that you want for a different reason? Or because I see Oklahoma State going to the SEC, like that one message, and I'm like, what benefit other than money would that have for them? Because it wouldn't be winning. It would absolutely not be winning in football, for sure. Basketball would be anywhere you go, it's going to be tough. I get that. But when I see these people that rah-rah the moves, but why? Is it the money thing? That's the only thing I can assume it can be, because a lot of these moves don't make sense for winning. And you can't win if you don't have a team to field, and if you don't have the money to do that. I understand where that's a concern, but I don't know. I guess I just oftentimes feel like people just want to see change for change's sakes. Yeah. Because it's exciting. And then when it's over, they're just like, oh, well, that wasn't even really necessary. But, man, it was exciting for 5 seconds. I don't know if it's that, or if there's a more well thought out, no, we need to get Oklahoma State into the SEC so that they're secure for the next 40 years and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, if you want to chime in that, just where your perspective is coming from. Is it just wanting to see chaos and change for the sake of chaos and change? Is it because you want to see a super league? I don't know why, but that's what you want. Is it security, or what is it? Because it's obviously a very hot topic, and anytime it's brought up, it remains a hot topic. But when I see all this shuffling around, I'm just kind of curious what the origin point for it is. And obviously, I think for the people who are still talking about KU to the Big Ten or Oklahoma State to the SEC or whatever you want to throw out there, clearly they're not confident in the Big 12's direction if you're still finding ways to bail out of the conference. And I know they still got some loose ends to tie up that they need to take care of. But, when it's all settled down, you're still finding ways to get out. That's why I'm curious where people are coming from.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that I'm for more stability and less moving in the conference.
I don't want to see super conferences. I have no desire to see super conferences. If it was a situation where, okay, if there was 50 college football teams and the SEC decided to break off and have a 18-team league or something, maybe that would be more accepting. But, in a landscape where you have 100+ teams from all over, and something as simple as just getting an invite to play Ohio State and make $500,000 is a big deal for a program. I don't want to see that have to go away. I understand wanting to do the whole elite versus elite all the time thing, but I think then that just becomes the norm, and somebody is inevitably still going to be the loser in that scenario. And, some of y'all might not be even realizing that the money would be good, but you're basically going to tank your actual success by moving towards a model like that. So, yeah, there's a lot of different ways to look at it, but, could there be a time, 20 years, 10 years, whenever it may be, where the Big Ten and the SEC just look around and go, we're better than everybody, let's just link up, and you'd have basically a 28-team league? Well, that's way off. There's be so many things that would have to happen, but would that shock me one day? No, but I think that would also kind of suck that you'd have plenty of teams that would just be left out there in the cold. So I don't know where we're going, but it's interesting.
All over the country, and regionality is part of the allure.
They're trying to crush that, though. Yeah, they're going the opposite direction of regionality.
Yeah, it is. It just, but yeah, that's part of the allure of it for people. I think that the people who want this big, massive, super Nova Conference is, to me, is kind of silly, and that you're going to lose what you actually like about college football. Now, look, it seems to me like a nuclear bomb way of eliminating the one game a year you don't like that your team plays.
It's like, we have to play so-and-so every year. We don't have to play measly Iowa Central every year if we get out of this conference or whatever.
I mean, that to me would be like going to the doctor and be like, hey, I've got this little skin tag. He's like, you know what you need? Chemotherapy. Yeah. Like, no, just take it off. I mean, like, if you don't like, playing the one FCS school a year, then, you don't. But it's not the biggest problem, and everybody does it. But now one team ever, so it's just part of it all, And look, you could think of it. You could be in a team that you think is really great, and you think it's going to be great for a long time, and then the Big Ten and SEC could merge into the Super Conference, and then you could become the Cleveland Browns of whatever you were. The Cleveland Browns before the AFL-NFL merger were pretty damn scary.
But that's what I'm saying, though, is like that's where I'm trying to figure out where a lot of people come from with this. I know some people, they just want to see change. Like, they need change to get excited or whatever. It's exciting to see change. And then when it's over, it's like, okay, what else can we change? There's a lot of people that are like that, and that's whatever. I mean, that's fine. But yeah, like, you are going to be more financially secure in that fantasy scenario, but at the sake of, going from maybe going to bowl games regularly to being like just the team everybody dunks on, becoming the new Vanderbilt or something, are you still going to be going, well, at least we get to go to Ole Miss every other year. Hey, at least Chris Del Conte is really rich. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, and there are things, at least for OU and Texas initially, that are very exciting. All those new road trips, all those new teams and new fan bases and the new money. I mean, all that's great. But from just a regular college football fan, not somebody who's trying to be like industry guy and look at it from the TV rights perspective, but just as a fan, I'm sure it would sound great if Oklahoma State got an invite to the such and such conference. But then if you're, watching a 3-4 win football team for the next 20 years, was it worth it? I mean, for the school it was, but for you as a fan. So I don't know. I think that all kind of gets muddied. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, we look at it from maybe the business perspective, and yeah, it's great. From the fan perspective, it might suck. And I don't know that we look at it from both ways.
Well, look, Oklahoma, you can be really excited that your team is going to make more money in the SEC.
Right.
But here's the deal. They're going to make that more money. Are they going to lower season ticket prices because they've made up the difference?
Of course.
No.
Those things are going up,
Exactly.
baby.
It's not going to still go up. So the money's not coming back to you.
No.
The TV deal that you get has no bearing. Like, here's the other thing.
That money
the
comes
TV
back
deal
to
is
you.
also going to get more money out of you because you're now going to pay more for your television. So it's all going to be more. Like,
you know where you get your money back? That scoreboard you're now looking at that's 5 inches bigger than the world record. It's now the Super Godzillatron. That's where your money's going.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just again just curious kind of people's perspectives and where they're coming from and why they would like to see something like a super conference one day versus just what we've had for a long time. And I'm not opposed to change. I'm very hesitant and a little weary of a world where we do, see potentially this becoming, the second NFL or whatever, like people have referred to it, and what that would look like. I think the uncertainty just makes me nervous for a lot of people out there, that aren't guaranteed to have spots in whatever that landscape would look like. And you know what? That landscape might never even form. All the stuff we're talking about, speculating about, like anything else, it could still be the Big Ten, the Pac-12, and the Big 12, and the SEC, and the ACC 15 years from now. It's just, they'll probably look different. There probably will be some team here that's over there 15 years from now or something, but ultimately look pretty much the same. Maybe we're still at that point, but maybe not. I mean, I think that's what's, for all the people who are speculating, but to be clear, I welcome all of it. I may not understand where you're coming from, but I'm trying to. Like, that's the thing. I'm not knocking it. I'm trying to understand. But that's what makes it fun is that nobody really truly knows. Like, we don't know what Greg Sankey's cooking up right now. We don't know what conversations Texas and Oklahoma had with the SEC about what they could do in the future and what that might look like. We don't know what the alliance has really spoken about in terms of anything meaningful that has nothing to do with voting. We don't know what the Big 12 might be planning as far as like, okay, well, if this doesn't work, how do we go after a Boise State? Do we, We have no idea, and that is what makes it fun, ultimately, is that this isn't just a bunch of crazy talk. It's like, there's actually something to all of this and the changing landscape, and that's why it's, I think, more intriguing now than ever.
There's a reason that people were pushing for the 12-team playoff to be adopted right now, because that
prevent all that.
That alone prevents all of it, because then, what does the SEC need more teams for? What do they need more? They've got plenty. The SEC and the Big Ten, after the automatic qualifying teams or the teams that win the conference title under the format that was proposed, they're still going to get the at-large bids more often than not.
Oh yeah, that's what they've been able to carve out for themselves. Yeah,
like that. We got to have an AQ kind of thing for our conference champion over another conference champion that would be a non-P5. To me, was just silly, because like you're talking about making something would happen one time, maybe. Like there'd be one time ever where the Big Ten champion, and it would be the weirdest year ever, would be 10-3, and the other one's somebody is 12-1 and gets in over them or something like that. It would never ever happen that way. So you're guarding against a scenario that is so through a pinhole. I don't know why they would do that, other than they're trying to stop it for other reasons than that. And just the convenient excuse they have. They're not all for it, and they're not necessarily going to jump in on it. Oh, well, we're not all ready because realignment's not settled yet. Yeah, but you could set forth, if you had the 12-team playoff, that could be the center of the future of college football. And then if you knew what you were all playing for, then maybe you could build out of that, as opposed to kick the can down the road and go, well, we'll just see what happens when the dust settles. Well, there could be more dust kicked up. The dust is never going to settle.
No. The playoff makes my head hurt. I don't really like talking about the playoff all that much, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm open to, but it just, it's just stalemated for 3 years in a row. So, it is what it is in that regard. And whether or not it expands or not, who the hell knows? At this point, I'm almost to the point of not even caring. I'm totally serious. It's at this point, whereas the playoff and the fantasy playoff scenario that we never even had one. We never had one for the longest time. And I remember people talking. I remember Smokey talking for years about a college football playoff. Never thought we'd see one. We finally got it, and we're already looking to tweak it and all that. But in terms of the number of teams getting in and all of that jazz, I've thought about it, and I've given my thoughts on what I would like to see, but because it's just dragged on and on and on, and we hear it, and it's always just floated some meaningless story that really just too long, didn't read. They're deadlocked again. They just tell us that. Don't rehash the whole, well, they met back in December and they were stalemated then, and then they met in March and they stalemated then, and just shut up, commissioners, until there's a new playoff or until just everything's kind of done. And so I'm glad that we kind of have an idea of at least what the immediate future looks like. But beyond that, with the playoff, I just think it's crazy we're arguing for less. I just, every time I see somebody argue of being anti the more than 4, and it's because of the students' health and needing to go to class, bull crap, man. Nobody is citing that kind of stuff in any scenario other than this scenario when you suddenly just don't want it to happen. You know what I mean? You're just not for it. But whether it expands or not, I'm not going to hold my breath, basically, is what I'm saying. I'm not going to worry about it or get too excited about it one way or the other until they just finally one day, sometime in the relatively near future, to say, okay, here's what it is, and this is what it's going to be now. Whether it's 8, 12, or just sticking at 4, ultimately. I do want to see an expanded field, but I'm not going to, like I said, hold my breath on awaiting change, because it's college sports, and things in particular with the legislation side of things and decisions like this typically move at a snail's pace.
Absolutely. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk, although I did forget to send a reminder text or hit send on it, which is something that happens to me quite a bit. Am I getting old that I forget to hit send on text? I'll type them all out, and I'll forget to hit send. It happens to me at least twice a week. This week, maybe 4 or 5. It's been a stressful week. When we come back, we'll talk Arizona with Troy Hutchinson of GoAZCats.com eventually. And then we've got Art Strickland, who will kind of update us on the Masters. And Tiger's been a little bit up and down here in the second round, but it looks like he's probably going to make the cut. Armstrong, would you say he's going to make the cut? Yeah. Yeah, maybe. But Armstrong's just happy because his buddy Scotty Scheffler is alone at the top right now. Armstrong, do you think he would let you try on his green jacket?
No.
No? I wouldn't let anybody try on mine. What if you
would let anybody try on yours?
No, I wouldn't. I don't think I would. Especially not
yeah.
you, because there's a 90% chance you've got food in your hand. And then the last thing I want is, pizza grease on my green jacket.
That's exactly why he wouldn't let me put it on. If it weren't for that, he would let me, I think.
Yeah. Is this a pepperoni in the pocket? Oops, I'm sorry. It just fell. Was too excited. All right, when we come back, we'll talk Arizona football. Troy Hutchinson, this is Sick of 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
New cars and trucks arriving weekly at Richard Carr. Go by our online, richardcarr.com, to see current inventory, or go by the dealership to check out in full, in detail, all those GMC, Buick, and Cadillacs, and get into some conversations with the people there. If you're looking for a new vehicle, about getting on that inbound vehicle list, they're seeing GMCs, Buicks, and Cadillacs arriving each and every week, and the quickest way to get yourself in a new vehicle is to get on that inbound vehicle list. So if you need a car today and you want to save, consider on, if you're not going to be on that inbound vehicle list waiting for a new ride, you're looking to get into one a little bit sooner, consider there are dozens of quality pre-owned cars and trucks. All of them have gone through a 172-point inspection. You can drive them with peace of mind, and they pay top dollar on your trade with dozens of lending options. They say yes to loans when others say no. And this month, Richard Carr is also celebrating 23 years in the automotive business. The motto has been throughout that entire time, people you can count on. And when it comes to that, they're talking about not just sales, they're talking about their award-winning collision center and service center, and they're talking about their actual dealers and their face-to-face and their personal way of doing business with you. Richard Carr is the dealer you can count on for a great deal and superior service for the life of your car. They're loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks. They've also got the new ones arriving weekly, which you can get to by getting on that inbound vehicle list just by contacting the dealership. Again, 100% credit approval is always the goal. So go online or give them a call or drop by the dealership today. Trust the good local people you can count on for 23 years. Proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 Radio app is sponsored by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco, your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
Welcome back, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Our spring football tour continues as we head out to Arizona. And Troy Hutchinson, GoAZCats.com, part of the Rivals.com network, joins us now. And Troy, thank you so much for hopping on the show today. I know the spring game is coming up tomorrow for the Cats. This is a team, interesting that this is in the midst of pretty much a rebuild from every direction because of what they, how their struggles have been over the last few years. Where are they now, would you say, under Coach Fishett and how they're moving forward? Do you see the positive steps that this team could, I don't think they're going to contend for a Pac-12 title, but maybe make a couple of waves here under him?
Yeah, I think, anybody who's followed Arizona football, fans of Arizona football or people around the country, you have to look at a 1-11 season, and at first that's not very good. Obviously, you don't want to be 1-11, bottom of the Pac-12, but was able to gather a top 20 recruiting class on Rivals.com, headlined by Tetero McMillan, a 5-star receiver out of California, and just the talent jump that you see at spring practice with the 19 new additions to the team, not only through the recruiting class but the transfer portal. There's just a level of competition that's raised on almost every position, continuity at position, but guys are more familiar with the system. And so far it's shown in spring practice, and it's a lot better product out there on the field than it probably has been over the last 3 to 5 years.
What would you say were perhaps the one or two biggest, most focused on areas of competition?
I would say the number one is the receivers versus the DBs. I think those are Arizona's best two position groups. Like I said, Tetero and McMillan, the kid's a stud. You walk out onto the field and you automatically see him and you're like, yeah, that guy's different. But Arizona's pretty deep at receiver. You have Majon Wright, who's going to be able to play this season. Jacob Cowling from UTEP transferred over. So they're really deep at receiver. But with the DB group, it's a veteran group that's been around the Pac-12 for a while. They understand how they want to play off of each other. So those one-on-one matchups have just been dogfights out there in the trenches. Tetero McMillan versus Christian Roland Wallace has been really entertaining to watch. The veteran's been able to get the better of T-Mac at times, and then T-Mac makes an amazing catch. And you're like, man, these are definitely the two, like maybe the top two players on the team. And this is the top two position groups on the team. And it could contend for maybe one of the better defensive back groups in the Pac-12 conference.
Where are they, at quarterback? They've got, 6-7 guys on the roster, all of them freshmen or sophomores, and young and moving forward. Is it Gunnar Cruz's job to lose?
No, I think Gunnar is probably the outside looking in. I would list him at 5th on the depth chart right now. I would say Jaden DeLora from Washington State, that's his job. They haven't made an official announcement yet. They probably won't tell fall camp. But Jaden DeLora is coming off of a year at Washington State where he was before, where he won Pac-12 Offensive Freshman of the Year. So he transfers to Arizona. He brings leadership. He's been there, done that before in the Pac-12 conference. Looks sharp at times. At times, like an underclassman will need some work, but his understanding of the system's visible. He's picking up quickly, playing in a more pro-style offense compared to Washington State, which is spread, but he's starting to pick it up pretty quickly.
Yeah, that was one of those off-season transfers that I would kind of raise my eyebrows because I saw a lot of him at Pac-12 After Dark, seeing them out there. And he's a good player, but like you said, he's got some things to work on. As far as having a Jaden DeLora in place, having the receivers you mentioned, offensively, what do they expect to get out of this group? I mean, the style and the way that they go about doing their business, what's kind of been the message there?
I think it's going to be a balanced attack. Jed kind of wants to bring that to Arizona. In the past, we've seen a more traditional run game kind of style of attack with Rich Rodriguez or Kevin Sumlin. It was a mix, but not a cohesive mix. I think Jed wants to bring that pro-style balanced attack because you are about 3 to 4 deep at the running back position. You're 6 to 7 deep at the receiver position. But it's going to really rely upon the offensive line who they welcome back almost every starter. It wasn't a great group last year, but they seem a little bit more cohesive and an understanding of the system, and they've grown. They've talked about getting smarter on the football field and understanding their assignments. And, one of the big things that they want to improve on, and they worked a lot on during spring, is red zone offense. They were near the bottom in the country, I believe 120 in red zone offense. So that's going to be the biggest area that they need to improve upon, and that's where they've been working a lot of during spring.
What do you see as the biggest differences between Kevin Sumlin organizationally and Jedd Fisch?
I think, going back to cohesion and just knowing what you want to do. I don't think Sumlin's staff ever had a plan in place of what they really wanted to do at Arizona. At times it felt sporadic, but with Jedd Fisch, there is a clear message of what he wants. There's a clear hierarchy of how to go about it. It's a family atmosphere, and I think that's big at Arizona to bring that family atmosphere, family vibe around the program, because Tucson's a college town and it likes to feel a part of something. And Jedd Fisch has done a great job of not only reaching out to the community, but making the team feel like a family. And I just think that there's a better cohesion with Jed and a better understanding of what he wants for the future of Arizona.
Troy, there's a lot on social media this week. There's been a lot of talk once again about realignment and just the future of college football and things like that. How do you feel about just kind of the state of the Pac-12 from your perspective? And then also based on, what you hear people speaking about. I mean, is there some belief that the Pac-12 has a chance to grow stronger, or is there maybe a little bit of doubt that, hey, this thing's kind of on shaky ground at times?
Well, I think in the past, the Pac-12 definitely was on shaky ground. I grew up watching Pac-10 football, which was a much better brand of football at the time when USC was at its height, and yet other programs along the way too. But for a long time, the Pac-12's kind of dropped off a little bit. Oregon's carried the torch at times, Washington at times. But it starts from the top, I think, as a conference. And George Khalilkoff, who's coming in as the commissioner of the Pac-12 from MGM out in Vegas, he is the new commissioner here. There's a clear message of what he wants to do. He wants to, fix some holes that were left behind in the previous regime. And part of that is fixing TV deals. So they got to wait on that, but they're going to be fixing those. Having a remote headquarters. So they're going to be switching to remote, no longer in San Francisco. They'll keep part of the San Francisco stuff there, but everything's going to be remote, and it's making more sense in the conference. But you look at the football standpoint, you get Lincoln Riley at USC. You had some other additions. Washington picked up Fresno State's head coach. So there seems to be much more of a leadership and football understanding from the conference this season. Big expectations out in Southern California for USC. A lot of transfers, so we'll see how they do. But I think the Pac-12 is finally moving in the right direction. And a lot of it's going to stem from how USC does in the next couple of years.
Yeah, Troy, you live in Arizona. We live in Texas. I think that at least in our state's thinking, $7 million a year in rent is too much for something you don't own, that the Pac-12 office was paying.
Exactly. It was way too much money. They're going to downsize a little bit, and I'm sure at some point in time, like I said, George is from Vegas, lived out there, ran MGM Resorts, so I'm sure at some point in time the Pac-12 will be having maybe not a headquarters there, but offices in Vegas.
No wonder he went remote.
Yeah.
I mean,
everything's going there, right? Everything's
right.
going to Vegas.
Right.
Hey, how do you feel about? I know it's so far out, and shoot, we'll probably talk to you again before the season starts. But in terms of their non-conference, San Diego State, Mississippi State, they're not really playing around with the schedule, are they?
No, and you have to add North Dakota State to that as well.
Yeah.
I know that's a FCS team, but we've seen them upset a handful of teams before. It's a tough schedule, but I think it's a little bit more workable than people are giving Arizona credit for. San Diego State, they're going to be solid, but at least you get Mississippi State at home in Tucson. That's going to be a hot environment, maybe not hostile, but it's going to be a good environment for Jedd Fisch there. And then you get North Dakota State at home. If you could get out of that going 2-1, 1-2, you got to feel pretty good about yourself.
Heck, man, I should have mentioned North Dakota State first out of respect, quite frankly. Yeah, thank you for adding him too.
Yeah. What do you think a reasonable expectation for fans would be for Arizona this year?
I think reasonable would be looking somewhere between 3 to 5 wins. I know that's a large window, but you're coming off of a 1-win year. Jed, you guys are out there in Waco, so he talks about Baylor and how Coach Rule went about going from 1-11 to 6-6 to, I believe the record was 12-1, 11-1 at the year 3 mark. Going through that transition and what it takes to do that. Can Arizona do that? I think a lot of that depends on the offensive line. I don't know if it will be that quick, but if Jed gets 3 to 5 wins, I think Arizona fans have to be feeling pretty good about themselves. But the one game that they can't lose this year is ASU. They've lost that game 5 straight times now. You get the Sun Devils at home in Tucson, and that program's going through a lot of ups and downs right now. So that's one win that Jed needs to get this season.
Yeah, I would say so with everything that's going on there in Tempe. Absolutely. Troy, thank you so much for jumping on with us today. Enjoy the spring game tomorrow, and then we'll reach back out during the season.
Have a good one, guys.
Troy Hutchinson, goazcats.com, part of the Rivals.com network. I'm interested because especially given what we've seen here in Waco, teams that are they're completely rebuilding at Arizona.
Yeah. Do you mean Tucson there at the end?
Tucson. No, I was talking about Tempe, Arizona State.
Oh,
Tempe.
okay.
Yeah, they should. I mean, it's been tumultuous in Tempe.
No, that's yeah, sorry. I just was thinking Tucson because we were talking, but you're right. Tempe has been a little bit of a furnace. But I mean, that's interesting that he's used Matt Rule as kind of a talking point in terms of what he did at Baylor, I guess 5 years ago now at this, golly, dude, we're getting old.
Yeah. Well, and Matt Rule did it without the one-time transfer rule.
Yeah, no, it was right before that. He didn't have if he would have been able to get to the transfer portal, my gosh, yeah, he could have talked himself into some probably big time additions. But yeah, I mean, he apparently once he said that, I actually looked it up, and I guess this was from last November. And Jedd Fisch was talking about, Matt Rule and talking about, okay, I saw Matt Rule's quote when they went from 1-11 to 6-6 to 11-1. He said the easy part was to go from 1-11 to 6-6 because all you have to do is not have dub penalties and score touchdowns in the red zone. The hard part is to go from 6-6 to 11-1. And then he kind of went on and what that will take. Well,
that's true. I mean, when they went from 1 to 6 wins, it was no dumb penalties. It was don't turn the ball over. It was create a couple, which they did in the 6-6 year all that well. It was the 11-1 year where they just started to feast.
They were 11-3.
Yeah, but I mean, but they lost the last 2, right? So, but it was 11-1 in the regular season.
Yeah, they did the anti-Dave Arenda. They lost the Big 12 title game and then lost. No, they won the Houston. Wait, I'm getting my years confused.
No, they lost to Oklahoma.
Yes,
they lost to Oklahoma again, and then they lost in the bowl game. Right?
What was the bowl loss?
Man, we're getting old. Well, the Sugar Bowl. They lost to Georgia.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's what I couldn't think of it. But, yeah, they lost to Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. So, yeah, he did the entire end of he lost in the Big 12 title game, lost in the Sugar Bowl. That's what I was trying to get to.
Yeah,
but yeah, all it was just belief as much as anything else, quite frankly, and just correcting some minor mistakes. I mean, it's like Nebraska last year. Again, we just keep saying it. Never seen a football team find that many creative ways to lose games. It's just unbelievable week in and week out how they found ways to lose versus found ways to win. It was incredible to watch. But, yeah, I mean, if they just cleaned up some dumb penalties and turnovers, they're a bowl team. Like, that's the thing. It wasn't like, they need a receiver or they need a totally new No, they just needed to not do dumb crap, and they would have won like 3 more games. I mean, it was as simple as that. So, yeah, Jedfish is right. Like, in terms of, getting a little bit of a bump up is not that difficult. You just got to play clean football and not do dumb stuff, and that should be easily manageable, especially when you're hammered at home. But as far as, jumping past that, I mean, that does take a little bit more work.
The talent gap from the bottom to the middle is not really all that great. No. As a matter of fact, it's usually the same, and it's the little things that kind of get you. Now, there are some teams that just have no talent, and they're scraping the bottom, and that's kind of where Arizona was. But again, the talent, if you compared Nebraska to the middle of the Big Ten, just using them as an example, Nebraska towards the bottom to the middle of the Big Ten, their talent gap from those teams in the middle is probably nothing. Negligible. They might even have better talent. They just haven't had the better coaching and those things. So if you change that, you can be a bowl team like that. I mean, plenty of teams can live in the 7-5 realm for 15 years and be completely content. And the talent is the same. Now, the talent jump from the middle to the top, well, that's a bit different. I mean, that's where recruiting comes in and all, that's where the stars start to matter, in that those teams from the middle to the top, the ones at the top are the volume of stars they have is a lot more. And the depth is a lot different. So we might be able to get them once in a while, but consistently the teams at the top are at the top because they have more talent. So that's the thing. The talent gap is smaller than I think a lot of people think throughout the majority of college football. But when it comes to the tippy top, then that's where the huge gap is, which is why we see the same teams in the playoff most of the time, because the gap is there. So what was that noise?
I didn't hear anything.
Jack's chair.
Chair squeaking.
And I was like, that's not what it sounded like, Jack. Just saying. A little worried about your lunch there. We'll take a break. We'll come back here. We'll give Art Strickland a call and check in on the Masters live from Augusta. He is there covering it and brought a tour group there with artofgolftravel.com. Art Strickland is next. This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Backfield for Bohannon. He'll throw it. Now steps up. Wants to run. Bohannon to the corner. Touchdown Bears. Feet don't fail me now. Gary Bohannon with his best rushing performance of the season.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Oh my God. What you guys don't know happened is I just started the segment before the open was over, an open that I produced and knew the end to. Well, disappointed in myself. Smokey does that all the time, and it's understandable. He's not the guy who makes the opens. But me, Armstrong, it's unacceptable.
I agree.
Yeah.
Faith has been here for under a month, and she knows the opens.
Yeah, I know. It's upsetting. It's upsetting. Art, we'll try to touch base with Art Strickland. He did not pick up the phone. He might still be out on the course. So as most people may know or not know, there's no phones allowed at the Masters. You got to check it into a locker or just leave it in the car. I would assume most people just leave it in the car and come back to it. So there's no phones. So if he's not in a spot where he can talk on the phone, it's not surprising. But so far in the Masters today, Scottie Scheffler showing why he's the current world #1 is kind of making a move here today on Friday and has put some separation. He still has 5 or 6 holes to play, I believe.
He's
on 14, so
he is in the zone of all zones.
Yeah. So he's playing really well. Tiger Woods is after went bogey, birdie, and so he is I believe currently at +1 and continue to defy the odds. And seems like Tiger Woods always needs a story, you know, and he is that, and he's +1 still, and he is a little further down the course, I believe. He is on. Well, I just passed him. Armstrong, he's on 15, so he's through 15. So
I believe he's one over.
Yeah, he's one over. So he is 2 strokes or 3 strokes away from the cut line. So if he, pars his way out, he's fine, and we'll see 2 more days of Tiger Woods. But really, there's 3 stories outside of Tiger Woods to me. It's Scottie Scheffler dominating the way he has today and really, really being in the zone, and the fact that some really big, maybe 2 stories, but some really big names like Brooks Koepka, who was the favorite coming into this, is going to miss the cut, and Xander Schauffele is going to miss the cut, and Bryson DeChambeau is going to miss the cut. He's at +10. For those of you keeping track on how we're doing against Rob Bolton, we're getting it handed to us. That's what's going on. So Rob is going to win this on the weekend.
I mean, he's the one who gets paid to talk about golf, not me. So I hope he's doing better than me. You saw my picking yesterday. I was just trying to find a guy who hadn't been picked yet. But, I mean, it's fun to contend and actually joust a little bit with him, but not going to be the case for this year's Masters.
Yeah, we're going to replay, and especially if I can't get Art, but we'll tread water here for another couple of seconds. We might replay Mack Rhoades from this week because most relevant news of the week, and that he got a 10-year extension, and then it was also the day that Bob Bowlsby announced his impending retirement or stepping away from the role of the commissioner and into kind of an advisory role within the conference. But just going back to our discussion from the 4 o'clock hour, Tony Altimore texts in, says, I think Kansas officials want the Big Ten academic and institutional benefits, whereas fans want the self-gratification superiority. They have a whole what could have been book about what they could have kept Franklin Murphy from getting frustrated by the state and leaving UCLA in 1960. OSU fans seem frustrated to have been left behind by OU and miffed that the state legislature let it happen.
Yeah.
And his great recent analogy is sports are to a school like housekeeping is to a hotel, important but not the core. Realignment fans often sound like if hotel people incredulously asked, why is Marriott running around with Ritz and W? Everyone knows that Holiday Inn had way more efficient laundry services. Big 12 was perfect in choosing on its new 4 on all factors.
Yeah, I mean, I think they did as best they could. I mean, we've said that a million times now. I mean, there weren't a lot of options just to begin with that made any sense. And you see with the second round of realignment, you're starting to dip into the SMUs. And what I mean by dipping into is not necessarily like lowering yourself. It's just that, that's just, if you've lived here in Texas, and I'm sure for even the people outside of Texas, even more so, it's been, some football success as of late and a little bit of basketball here and there, but there's a small school in Texas that, not a lot of pull there, man. It's a bunch of rich folks and athletes for the most part. I mean, that's what it is. The Highland Park folks like Armstrong and, and then the athletes that come to school there. And it's just kind of different that way. So I think when you start to get into, the SMUs, and you're already a pretty Texas heavy conference, and you've added Houston now. I think that's where people are like, okay, how much are we really adding here at this point? But that's wave 2, if there is a wave 2. Wave 1, I mean, for what you're able to get, we've gone over all the positives and all of that of the Cincinnatis and the BYUs and the UCFs. And who's the team that Cincinnati, obviously, and there's all a lot of positives right there, from the markets to the future outlook of what some of those schools could be or turn into eventually. So I like the teams that are being brought in. I'm excited to see when that starts happening here in the next couple of years. See some new places and just some new teams and logos and things like that. But I mean, you're right. It's I think people are kind of chasing that that temporary satisfaction, or just that kind of, we live in the richest neighborhood and you peasants down the block, because that's definitely the feeling I got from Texas and Oklahoma over and over and over again, was like, why are you guys building homes in our neighborhood? Get out. And that's how it felt, and now it'll feel like more of a neighborhood. But I do think there is always going to be that fan that or just people in general, and it's saying it's not negative, but they want to be a part of the ritzy neighborhood. They want to be in Bel Air, right? And Texas and Oklahoma, I mean, they're in Bel Air now or whatever, and I'm sure there's others that want to join that, but again, that's a pretty exclusive club. It's not easy entry into that thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, sometimes, the security of, it probably benefits, all the schools in the SEC that are already there that are, if they went on a kind of a merit system, that's not how it works. There's a couple schools there who don't pull their weight, but that's not how it works. And so they're kind of, by the grace of God, go them if they were in a different situation. Would Vanderbilt be in the SEC if they weren't always in the SEC?
No, they would not be. No,
exactly. All right. Here we go. We'll take him live on the fly. Art Strickland joins us from Augusta National. And Art, Tiger still keeping pace, +1. I know we've following along. I'm sure there's a couple of putts he'd like to have back there, but overall for Tiger, still continuing to surprise with, right now he's above the cut line, and if he just pars out, he's going to be playing tomorrow.
Oh, he's easily above the cut line, and really the last both 15 and 16, he had putts he could have made. Would be under par right now. He's +1, going to be right there. Cut line. Shows you what a battler he is, Paul. I mean, he bogeyed 4 of the first 5 holes. You saw Bryson DeChambeau did that today. He blew up and shot about an 80. But Tiger, like we talked about yesterday, never gives up, always battles, bogeys 4 of the first 5, keeps grinding. He's right there, could be better. And I think, you forget that hadn't played Augusta in 2 years and, hadn't played any competitive golf in almost 14 months. So the fact that he's out here and doing it's just more remarkable on last year's remarkable.
Yeah, Art, the biggest story of the day isn't, to me, Tiger. I mean, that was yesterday, but it's Scotty Scheffler and really, really making that number 1 in the world ranking evident right now.
I think so, and I think we brought this up on the show yesterday. The fact that he wasn't talked about, certainly wasn't a lot of stories on world number 1 and everything, but Scotty is, he is not over-emotional. He is not, scared by the moment. You saw what happened with Jordan Spieth. Any pro will tell you this is a life-changing event to win the Masters. And probably more so than any other major out there. But, the moment's not too big for Scotty. And doesn't surprise me at all. I picked him before the tournament started. I had him in a 3-way box with Dustin Johnson, and we won't talk about Jordan Spieth missing the cut. But, I had Scotty there. The moment's not too big for him, and I'm not surprised at all. I'm really not.
Well, big names, Art, missed the cut. You just mentioned Jordan Spieth. Earlier, you mentioned Bryson DeChambeau, Xander Schauffele, Brooks Koepka, who was a lot of people's favorite. All have missed the cut for this weekend. What happened with all of them?
I just think that some guys are just not Masters befuddles them. I mean, look at Rory, who, great player, won a ton, world number 1, done everything. But the Masters, for whatever reason, just befuddles him. The speed of the greens, the fact that the Masters is the only thing he needs for the career Grand Slam. I think it's just the Masters just does not suit everybody. Certainly, Bryson, came in bragging, I think it was 3 years ago, that it's a par 68 for me because I can murder the par 5s out here, and just not the case. So, some guys are just not made for the Masters. I talked to Craig Stadler for a story in Golf Magazine this month, and Craig said, every year I went to the Masters, I learned something different I didn't have the year before. And I think that's very true. You got to learn the lessons of Augusta, and some guys never do. And Scotty Scheffler, pointed his 3rd Masters, learned it very well.
Who do you think, will it be Dustin Johnson or Morikawa, who has the best shot of coming for him on the weekend?
I think that's a good question. I like TJ. I picked him. I think that his strengths really fit Augusta. I think he hits it so far, and he's already won here once, and so he's got that mental edge on Augusta. Morikawa is a great iron player, which you certainly need. It's a second shot golf course, but I'm just worried that his short game will let him down at a critical moment. I think it's very interesting, the fact that you look at the leaderboard right now, and there is 3 past champions right up there near the lead. Danny Willett, who won it the year Jordan fell apart on the back nine, is right there. And, a lot of good punch past to Dustin Johnson. We already mentioned him. And, like I said, so there's something to be said for experience at Augusta. And that's why you see a lot of past champions hanging around, including Tiger Woods, who's going to be about, I'd say 6 shots, maybe 5-6 shots out when the day's over with today. But I wouldn't count him out because he's not giving up, and he still knows the course better than anyone. So it's going to be a memorable weekend. And I had a friend on my Art of Golf trip. He said, Art, I'm going with you to the Masters because I want to see Tiger Woods on Sunday. And I wanted to say, you're crazy. Not only are you not going to see him on Sunday, you're not going to see him anytime. But that was right. Tiger's making the cut and playing for the weekend, and it's going to be a great time here at Augusta to see that.
How many pimento cheese? No, you're not pimento cheese. You're egg salad, right?
Egg salad, right. I had 2 to start with, and then I added another one after that. I had to get a few Masters potato chips, and I had grits for breakfast. So I'm really feel like I'm trying to pace myself, but I'm off to a good start.
All right. Well, yeah, and Art, for all that, you're probably out $14. So not a bad day. Not a bad day at all at Augusta. All right. Well, Art, we'll talk to you on Monday to recap the whole thing. Art Strickland, artofgolftravel.com. Enjoy Augusta, buddy.
All right. I'll tell Tiger you said hello.
All right. Yes. I've long campaigned to be his life coach.
Well, you can argue at times he could have used long.
There was a good long stretch there. And my argument was, here is my advice to Tiger. When he'd be like, what should I do? Here's my advice to him. Go be Tiger effing Woods.
Well, I think he was Tiger effing Woods, and that was the problem. That was part of the issue was he was the man, and probably got a bit too full of himself.
Yeah, based on the documentary and some of the things we said, I think for a while he was being Earl Woods for a little bit, and he needed to be Tiger Woods.
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, whatever it is, he's changed his life back around and seems to be doing well. And we thought he was going to die about a year ago. So the fact that he's out here playing the Masters is pretty incredible.
Yes. All right, Armstrong, do we have enough time to do it? If we did it right now. Okay, we're going to replay Mack Rhoades from earlier this week because I think, we did have our 2nd anniversary show on Wednesday, and we had some great guests, Lee Trevino and Tom Glavine, but I do think that given the Bob Bowlsby news and his contract extension, that's our biggest interview of the week. We're going to re-rack Mack Rhoades, Baylor Athletic Director, next. This is Sikkim 365 Radio on 365 Sports.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Jeep Celebration is going on now at Allen Samuels. Come see the newest Grand Cherokee, the new 2022 available in a 2-row or a family favorite, the 3-row Model L. Jeep re-engineered for the future. The Grand Cherokee is ready for the next great adventure. Are you? Find legendary power and confidence, along with head-turning style, is what Grand Cherokee is. First responders get a $500 discount. Shop Allen Samuels, DCJ.com, or come in and see our huge selection of brand new cars and trucks.
Come by. Let's be friends.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Mack Rhoades, Director of Athletics at Baylor University, about 24 hours from the time an extension was announced by Baylor, and about 24 hours prior to when the Big 12 announced that also Bob Bowlsby would be stepping down in the future as the commissioner when they find his replacement. Mack, thank you for your time. We appreciate it. Was yesterday's announcement with your extension proactive to what today's announcement was in the Big 12?
Completely separate incidences. So I am certainly bittersweet, mixed emotions about Commissioner Bowlsby, and I know that you haven't asked me, but I've got great respect and admiration for him, and his decade-long tenure as commissioner for the Big 12. I think he's done it as well as anybody, or better than any other Power 5 commissioner. And I just I'm happy for him because this is what he's decided to do, what his family and him have decided to do, and again, he's been tremendous for the Big 12. He's become a great friend, and he's allowed Baylor to regain credibility, and he's allowed, quite frankly, Baylor to be a leader within the Big 12. So just grateful for him, and have as I mentioned, a lot of admiration and respect for him.
Is this, just going from, I'm sure you guys know these things before they happen. We all know that. But is this the right time to start that transition with so many new things on the horizon and knowing the structure of the conference going forward?
Yeah, I think if you logically just break it down with everything that we're facing right now, when you think about CFP, future expansion, when you think about name, image, and likeness, transfer portal, transformation committee, Alston, and then probably even more importantly, think about new members coming in July of 2023. You think about new TV contract, that ends in 2025, right? Spring, summer of 2025, but you begin negotiations, right? Probably a year in advance of that. And so when you think about runway for new person, this timing right now logically makes the best sense. And that's what I appreciate about the commissioner. He knows that, knew that, and I think he took that into consideration when he thought about Big 12 future and what's best for Big 12, knowing that he probably didn't want to continue on as commissioner past 2025 in his current agreement. And so again, I certainly appreciate him, but it doesn't surprise me about him when you know him, and again, completely thinking about what's best for the Big 12 moving forward.
Mack, I just saw a tweet from Max Olson of The Athletic. Says the Big 12 wants to have a new commissioner in place in 90 days, according to Tech President and Board Chair Lawrence Shavanik. He told The Athletic. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I think that uncertainty is difficult. I think that for Commissioner Bowlsby to remain as commissioner and serving, continue to serve as commissioner until the new commissioner steps in. I think that is, the best way to do that in terms of the upcoming transition. And, 90 days, you think about, the summer and really giving somebody an opportunity to come on in and, do all of the normal things you do when you begin a job, begin to take a look at staff and decide, what's pressing, what's not pressing, begin to develop relationships immediately. And I think, that year runway, I think is probably needed when you think about bringing in the new members and everything that goes with that. So yes, I think the 90 days is accurate, and I think it's also not just accurate but necessary.
Mack, what's more important? You'd like to get both, whoever is that next person, someone with media experience because of the TV negotiations down the road, or somebody that understands the issues facing college athletics that are even bigger than that?
It's a great question. I think the easy answer would be both, all of it. But if this is one person's opinion, I'm hiring somebody that has great relational skills, interpersonal skills that really is elite at building relationships. I think I'm hiring somebody that is going to be an outstanding leader, and again, that can surround themselves with terrific talent, that can take current staff and push them and make them better. I'm hiring somebody that has a familiarity and a strong sense of the issues that we're facing. I think that's really important. I think that curve is really steep if you don't. I'm I'm hiring somebody that I can really see and envision being in a room with the other 4 Power 5 commissioners and holding their own. I'm hiring somebody that's a great visionary, and then certainly somebody that's got an understanding of the media world, but I don't believe that they need to have worked in it. I don't believe that they need to be an expert in it. I mean, we've got consultants that do that for you. I think, it'll be really important, whoever the next commissioner is, to pick and choose the right consultant for the Big 12. And so, again, one person's opinion, that's who I'm looking for.
How much because they're not official, I guess, members yet, but do the new folks get a say in this?
Yeah, that's another interesting question. And I think that, and I think that the process is to be determined. I know that the press release talks about, getting a search firm involved. But I think that process is still probably fluid, and I think there will be a space for the new schools. Again, one person's opinion will be there'll be a space for the new schools to certainly be updated and to have influence. But I would think that certainly the 8 remaining are going to be the primary drivers, and it could even be a smaller group of the 8 potentially when you think of presidents. So again, one person's opinion, but that's probably the way I would frame it up.
So, Mack, there was pretty big news breaking today with Bob Bowlsby, but there was big breaking news regarding you yesterday and the contract extension that was announced with Baylor that will keep you on board on paper for quite a while. Just your thoughts on how all that came together, the timing, and just what all of it means.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of thoughts, and I think the one that comes to mind probably, more prominent than any of them is just gratefulness to Baylor, gratefulness to President Livingstone and to our board of regents, my colleagues on President's Council, and then just huge emphasis, gratefulness for the people that I have the opportunity to work alongside every day. Our head coaches, our assistant coaches are the best of the best. My executive team, I will put them up against anybody in the country. All of our staff, it's about people. You've heard me say it over and over and over again. And so just this gratefulness, to be part of it and to be a small part of it. And, I'm honored to lead Baylor athletics because of what we stand for and how we do it, and we're never gonna compromise that. And again, this belief that Baylor's best years are still ahead of us. I continue to say that, and I don't say it because I want to wish it true. I say it because I really, really believe it. And God called Amy and I to come to Waco, 5.5 years ago, and that hasn't changed.
Mack, I don't know if you'll get into the timeline, but that Board of Regents meeting yesterday just kind of happened. And I don't know the timeline of when they meet or whatever, but it seemed to me that it kind of just came about, maybe out of the unknown. When did they start discussing this with you?
Oh, I think that, and again, when you say discussing, I think, there were, certainly the primary person, obviously, right, would be Dr. Livingstone, and when necessary, a couple regions, certainly the chair of our regions, Chair Roundtree, and another region. But probably this conversation has been, I don't know, going on for certainly 3 or 4 weeks. Maybe a little bit longer than that. And and quite frankly, I'm hard to pin down. I'm worried about getting stuff done for Baylor and the stuff that's about me and my family. That will take care of itself. So again, I'm grateful, blessed beyond belief, and we're going to have some significant challenges that we're going to be faced with in the future. So when you think about all of the stuff that's happening, so looking forward to facing those challenges.
So you learned about other things that were more important from Dave Aranda, right, before anything was announced about a contract. He just didn't that kind of learned from him.
Yes, kind of learned from him. So, but yeah, so we've got some challenges ahead of us for Big 12, for Baylor to remain relevant, and I don't think any of it is going to be easy, but I think we all love the challenge. I know I do, and I'm excited to take those things head on.
Mack, one of the texts that Jason Cook sent yesterday to kind of say, okay, go ahead and report this, said 10-year contract. Mack will retire at Baylor. You're a young guy, Mack. 10 years doesn't seem like that long.
Yeah, I'm just praying I can make it 10 years. These last 5.5 has felt like 10. With some of the stuff that we've had to go through, but look, I don't know. We'll see about going beyond the 10, and I think for Amy's sake, she probably wants me to work for as long as I can, so I'm not spending time at home driving her nuts. But yeah, it's we'll see what God has in store. But I'm certainly looking forward to the future.
When you took this job, when you were at Missouri, and you talked about what brought you here in the calling, did you ever have any idea that it would become as magical as it's been, or this would be perhaps your last landing spot?
No, I did, Smoak, and I appreciate the question. I don't know that I allow myself to think that way. Because I'm always afraid that if you do, you get distracted, and so just trying to focus on the task at hand, and if you do that, well, and I'm certainly not saying we've done it well. I think we've done it pretty good, and it hasn't just been me. It's been because of everybody else that is here in terms of Baylor athletics. But if you take care of those things, then everything else takes care of it itself, and that's kind of the way I've always approached it. If you do a great job with the job that you have, all of that stuff takes care of itself. So, and again, I go back to I've been blessed with to work alongside just some great people.
Have you ever considered even thinking about being a commissioner of a conference?
Oh, would you stop? Look, I'm not going to lie if I told you that I've never thought about it. Yeah, absolutely, I've thought about it. There's not many of them. But I'll be frank, man, the personal relationships that you have with coaches, that's special. My relationship with our head coaches, and I don't want to just pick one because I've got great relationships with I'm blessed to have great relationships with our head coaches, but they mean a lot to me. I'm not saying that they mean a lot to them, but they really mean a lot to me. My relationships with the executive team, they're extension of family. They're like family to me. To be able to be on a campus and impact student athletes, and preparing champions for life. If you become a commissioner, that takes you just one further step away from that impact. And I'll tell you, somebody said to me after we lost to North Carolina men's basketball, 25 points down, and you work that hard and you get into overtime and you lose. I mean, the worldwide sports, years and years ago, the agony of defeat, that is agonizing. And somebody just said to me, well, hey, if you were ever a commissioner, you wouldn't have to feel that. And they're exactly right. But that's the beauty of having a team and rooting for a team, and that team being part of who you are. That's the beauty of it. And so I don't know. I think that would be hard to remove yourself from, and then finally, I'm not sure that you're supposed to do it as an athletic director, to be on the sideline yelling at officials. But you definitely can't do it if you're a commissioner. So.
Oh, and speaking of Kansas, Kansas won it all. How about Kansas, huh?
Yeah. Happy for Kansas. Happy for Coach Self and for Travis, the athletic director. He's terrific. And you think about the Big 12, and we've won the last two national championships in basketball, men's basketball. I think it was in the late 2008, maybe I'm wrong there, but I saw a stat. It's been a while since the conference has done that. The last conference was the ACC, and so thrilled and excited for them. And again, you think about the Big 12 and the last two men's basketball national championships this year in football. Two of its programs go to New Year's Six games and win those both. So, hey, the future is bright, and I'm glad to be a part of it. So,
Mack, my last question and back to Bob Bowlsby. Can you try to put into words the recovery, the reaction? Obviously, when you have your knees cut out from under you in late July as a conference, with what happened, the story involving Texas and Oklahoma, and Bowlsby and everyone could have folded their tents, and I think most people probably hope they did. Can you try to put into words, no matter how popular a person he was with any of the fan bases, what he was able to do to salvage the conference, the cease and desist, and then expand it?
Yeah, I think, there are a lot of things converging on it, right? One is, making sure that you select the right institutions, and having to then do that in a really timely manner, so that this narrative that the Big 12 is unstable, remains with you, and then becomes a reality. And so for the commissioner, for him to react and do it in a timely manner, and then absolutely I think hit it out of the park with the 4 incoming institutions. Again, just really, really admirable. And I think he would admit with everything and with everyone, and I think maybe he already has, but that hurt, because those were trusting relationships, friendships that he had, and so you're having to deal with those emotions, but then put those aside and boom, immediately have a steady hand and say, okay, we've got to move forward, and this is how we're going to move forward, and let's do it with confidence and certainty, and he did that. And so I just know that the 8 institutions, speaking on behalf of all 8, we are absolutely grateful for his leadership during that time.
Mack, congratulations on the extension. Thanks for your time again today. We appreciate it.
Thank you all. Appreciate you all.
Mack Rhoades, Baylor's Director of Athletics, with us on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. There's a lot to chew and digest with a lot of that. A lot of different.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrapped fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Erie Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com. Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show, whether necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Erie in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nixon Group Insurance Agency. With the Nixon Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nixon Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nixon Group at 1-800-258-8302.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
Welcome back, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Top 5 ACC spring football questions. I'll go through all the Power 5 conferences, then maybe jump into kind of maybe a general G5 thing. But, we had BC right around earlier today, and so I thought I would jump in. We had Alexis Cubitt talking Clemson yesterday, but so I thought we would go ACC to start out since the big wave of their spring games is on Saturday. Number 5, can BC, Pitt, and Wake continue to improve? Is this a conference that is getting deeper? Because it is pretty wide open right now, and earlier you heard maybe it's not as much as we may think with Miami maybe on the rise, with Mario Cristobal and maybe Mike Norvell making some waves at Florida State if he can get them out of a hole, and then we'll talk about that in a second. But if these three teams can really improve, Craig, I mean, the ACC can be really interesting and keep improving because Pitt and Wake, they were in the championship game last year.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett's gone. So I mean, that you get a once in a while type of player like that. I mean, that obviously helps matters. But I mean, they all had their positives. In particular, Pitt and Wake Forest last year, and Jurkovic coming back at BC. I mean, that should obviously help matters so long as he can stay healthy. But I don't know. That's the question. Can they? It sure seems like at least one of them should be able to possibly Pitt should be able to kind of keep momentum going on. But yeah, that's the big question. And can they do it in enough time to to be able to really take advantage of the fact that some of these others have been down and, are on their way back up? Can you keep adding momentum while the FSUs and the Miamis come roaring back? That's the question.
Yeah, absolutely. So that brings us to the fourth one. Can FSU actually improve? Can they actually do it? Can they? There's two things they really need to do overall. One is get an offensive line that can keep Jordan Travis from getting murdered and have pass catchers for him so that he can actually improve in the pass game. If you look at running back and quarterback, they're pretty well set. Wide receiver, they have a ton of transfers, all of whom will probably be better than the lot they had last year. The defense wasn't as bad as people may think, but the offense has just been atrocious for quite a long time, or so hit and miss, where you got playmakers, but you don't have offensive linemen. So if they can actually improve, then the ACC will look vastly different. But I don't know. I'm not going to believe it until I see it because it's been such a mess for so long.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, there's some things to be positive about, but I still feel kind of like they're in transition to a certain extent. I mean, you've kind of gotten some stability now at this point, but I don't really know who they are, what their identity is. I mean, could you tell me what the identity of FSU football is right now?
Nope. I mean, they used to have it. I mean,
yeah, that's what I mean. Is like, the identity now is just the logo, whereas there used to be a little bit more muster behind that. And so, yeah, there's improvements going on, but can they get back to like having some substance to the brand? Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, look, the best team in the ACC is Clemson. They have an identity. Their defense is going to knock you around, and their offense, outside of last year, is going to have the playmakers going to make your head spin. And Florida State used to have the best athletes in the country, save maybe one or two places. I mean, that's just where it was. Best athletes in the country on both sides of the ball, and that's just not the case anymore. Number 3, who replaces Sam Howell at UNC? I mean, this may have been a Pitt question, but we know it's Keaton Slovis at Pitt. UNC, even with Sam Howell last year, a guy who's probably going to be a second-round pick, might sneak into the first round, but let's not play games here with the quarterbacks in this draft. But if Mack Brown is going to take another step forward, he's going to have the quarterback that can win games for them. And UNC took a step back last year, and, they've recruited well, but it all is going to come down to the quarterback, Craig. And right now, Sam Howell's the best one they've had in a very long time.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to be a program that's around for a while, you have a good player, you replace that player. I mean, pretty simple. So, yeah, Sam Howell was good, but, I mean, let's say he wasn't, freaking, some Heisman Trophy winner or anything. I mean, there's room for improvement there, too. So, yeah, I mean, lost a good player, but, I have confidence. Well, I mostly have confidence in Mack Brown being able to find a quarterback, unless this is like a repeat of his last few years at Texas, and then that would be a little bit concerning, but I don't think that it is. I think that they'll be fine. As far as, how much of an impact they can make, I think that remains to be seen, but I do have faith that Mack Brown's going to have, and continue to have North Carolina more relevant than they've been in football in a long time.
Kind of surprised that they didn't really hit the transfer portal hard, but maybe he's got somebody he likes. So you never know. Number 2, what is Mario Cristobal's immediate impact at Miami? And look, they've got a good quarterback in Tyler Van Dyke, and they've got some good players, but they don't have Miami's used to be, they're the baddest dudes in the world. That was their identity. And that's what Mario Cristobal needs to get back to. Can you make them the baddest dudes in the world again? I don't know.
But, I don't see any reason why you can't. I mean, I think you can do just about anything you put your mind to, and it's Miami after all. It's not like he's, at East Western State or something like that, where it's a struggle to even get people to come and visit you. I mean, you're in a recruiting hotbed. You've got a great head coach. He knows what he's doing. He had Oregon. Not like Oregon needed a rebuild or anything when he got there, and he was there a very short amount of time. But I think he had them on a solid trajectory so long as he was sticking around, and I think he'll have Miami in that in a very short amount of time as well. I think this is one of those that, if this were to somehow not work out, I don't know what you do if you're Miami, honestly. I think this is the move that they had to make and that made the most sense, and I think it will work out for them. I think Mario Cristobal is a good coach.
Well, and the only reason it wouldn't work out, honestly, because Mario Cristobal is such a good coach, is if they don't give him what he needs.
Yeah.
If they get locked up in political arguments over, an on-campus stadium or, a stadium that's, they got to move out of the stadium. But one, they've got to improve their facilities on campus anyway. Give him the football only facility so he can recruit with the other people in the country.
Go out and earn that and not, still be flying the flags from, your last national title in 2001. That's great. They had a great run, but that's also been 20 years now. Yeah. So I know it's been a drought for Oklahoma, and it's been a drought for Texas, and it's been a drought for a lot of other schools. But, yeah, Miami, I'm kind of tired of hearing about the 80s. I mean, we're in the 2020s now at this point. So maybe it's not that they need to get back to the brand of the U from 40 years ago. They need to kind of take some of that and then establish something different, that they're not constantly, every time there's a losing season or they're not winning a title, it's, well, we're just not tough enough, or we're not the bad boys of the 80s. It's like there's more than one ways to skin a cat. I think you can do a little bit of what your identity is, but there's also, other options out there. So I think that they'll be fine, and they'll have some of that old you to them, but I'm sure there will be a Cristobal twist on it.
Yeah. And number 1, who are the contenders outside of Clemson, realistically? I mean, it's Clemson, and then you have to kind of wonder about everybody else. I mean, I could, for the rest of the teams in the ACC, I could give you a reason why they might, but I'll give you a definite reason why they won't. Why they will not be a contender. And I think Clemson, look, they had a down year last year and they lost 3 games. They're healthy and they play a lot better. They'll be back to being Clemson again.
I mean, you would think so. I don't
unless
know if
they've hit the wall, but I don't
know
so.
that they're going to get back to, that run that they were on. I mean, I think they might have a year or 2 in a row where that, I don't know. I mean, Clemson seems like they're built for the long haul. I'm by no means saying it's anything different than that. But, I mean, let's be realistic about what they were doing there for about 3, 4, 5 years or whatever it was. I mean, that's to the point to where, you lose 3 games and it's like, oh, my God, is Dabo on the hot, just craziness. So, outside of them, I mean, they're the de facto. But, I mean, Miami better be. They should be. I don't see why not. Florida State should be better. North Carolina should be better. I mean, even if losing Howell, they didn't have a great year last year, so I would expect improvement. And then you've got, the interesting moves like a Slovis to Pitt to kind of keep that thing going. So
look, does Virginia get better under Tony Elliott with a good quarterback they already have?
When's Vatek going to be back in the mix as far as being on the top of mind? Because you think about it now in the ACC, we default to Miami and be like, oh yeah, Virginia Tech too, where that used to be right at the one of maybe the first team that you said sometimes, but But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of schools that are kind of within striking distance, I think. I mean, Clemson's got, a couple of miles ahead of everybody because of what they've been doing as of late. But it's an interesting conference right now. I mean, a lot of teams that aren't normally near the top that have flirted with it, and a lot of teams that aren't normally at the bottom that have flirted with it, and now a lot of changes, and it's not wide open, but it is to some extent.
Yeah, look, I don't know who it is. It's one of those things. I mean, like, it's not going to be like what the Big 12 is going to be in 2 years, where we don't know who the best team's going to be with the new thing or who's going to run it, but it's interesting what's going on in the ACC right now. All right, thanks a lot to everybody who's joined the show today, especially Grayson Grundhafer, Troy Hutchinson, Art Strickland, Andy Backstrom all joined the show today. Thanks to Craig Smoak. Thanks to Jack Emery Armstrong. Thanks to all of you watching. I'm off on Monday. Smokey and Craig back together, and then all of us back in the studio on Tuesday. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.